do we have an awesome episode planned for you today. Ooh, you are going to love it. It is the coolest thing. It's second brain apps. What is that, Glory? I already have one brain. I don't need a second. The first one's not working great. But yeah, that's literally why. You may have heard of analog second brain apps. They're called paper with post-it notes and a pencil or pen. But baby, you're living in the 21st century now. And now you can have your second brain on your phone and or also tied to your laptop so that you do not have to use your organic brain to remember everything, because we know that cannot be relied on. I'm not calling you out. I'm calling all of us out. We look, all humans, the brains are not terribly reliable, and that is totally fine because it's the 21st century, and so modern problems call for modern solutions. And to help us discuss this, or really to discuss this for me, because I am old school. Don't take away my post-it notes. We have this amazing panel of folks who all have strong opinions and a lot of tips and tricks to help everybody who ever watches this, because surprisingly, it turned out there actually is not a lot of new content on YouTube about second brain apps, particularly if you're neurodivergent, which means your brain does not run like neurotypical's brain. Surprise. But like, we need special and specialized solutions for us as neurodivergent people, as well as how to know how to tailor the technology to our specific needs. Whether we're talking about you're trying to organize your book Bibles for your epic pirate series, or if you just need to remember to feed yourself every single day, not just days on the weekend, okay? Whatever your needs are, our amazing and talented panel can help you. So here we go. We've got Kat, Tom, Laura, Charlie, and Megan. Hello. And I believe this was originally pitched by Megan. Of like, second brain apps, let's do it.
I feel called out by the food comment.
Oh, honey, I'm calling all of us out. I know all of us. And every one of us has said to me this year in 2023, oh, I think I have entirely forgotten to eat since like yesterday or the day before. And it's like, oh no. Like, yeah, that might be why I've been writing some really dark stuff. Yeah, Mike, go eat food.
Excuse me?
You literally said that to me, Laura.
I don't know why I was writing darkness.
Yes, you said that's why I think I've been writing some really, like, for you, what is dark? It's like the terrible long dark tea time of the soul introspection. Not necessarily there's monsters under my bed and I'm pretty sure they want to eat my mom. You know, that stuff. But yes, the dark introspection. Yes, you told me, hold up, I haven't eaten since yesterday, Glory. Like, honey, maybe that's why the journal got real dark real quick. So, without further ado, we do technically have an outline. Are we sticking to it? I don't know. Tom, put the can down and tell us what you're doing.
I know for a fact, at least for me, because I was a dum-dum and forgot to add my stuff to the outline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like genuinely surprised.
We got off the Discord last night and I kind of just went to sleep.
That's okay. That's a good idea. To sleep. Perchance. I am, however, going to post it in the private chat. There's the Google Doc. If you should want to open it up and take a look-see or to edit and add to it. Because I'm sure there are things missing, because I got to be honest, it was me and Tom who look like, and maybe Megan who've edited it, and I don't have no idea what I'm doing. I just put in links and stuff because I don't know enough about most of these, but yeah. I am interested in learning. I have downloaded some of the apps,
There's actually another one in here.
So I'm definitely interested. Personally, I'm interested in the Android app, but we do want to be sure for this podcast to also cover Apple products, iOS, because all hardwares and softwares are valid. I am not judging. I just want everybody to be as functional as you're comfortable with. Because I think that's important. Like way back in the 90s, when my stepmother, who was blind, she's passed away. But she was the one who insisted that I start using a notebook because she had been trained to use a notebook at the School for the Blind of Connecticut, I believe. And I was working at 18 years old. I was her assistant until I got hired by Internet Explorer 4.0 to sell ad space. But that was a whole other matter in the Philippines. Heather, hi, Heather. Heather says, I'm so old school. I have multiple paper planners. Yeah. But I understand that digital is wonderful in the moment. Spence says, I've eaten more than ramen for the last 2 days, I swear. One vegetable, that's all I ask. One vegetable and one protein a day.
That's too much.
I won the world. I want the whole world. Give it to me now. Cat is in the chat. Technically, it'd be a third brain if you have a second brain in your gut. Yes. You also have a third brain at the base of your spine.
So technically, it's like several brains out there, but
It's theorized that humans have up to 5 small clusters that are like brains. Because some humans, not all humans, because this is fascinating to me, some humans also have another like semi hindbrain cluster in their small intestine.
Mm-hmm.
But not all humans. So that's kind of fascinating. So who has that? It's neurodivergent people. Neurodivergent people are so much more likely to have an extra like almost brain in near the top of their small intestine. Hello, kitty.
also like there being the second or whatever number brain in your digestive system makes sense because especially with people with depression and anxiety, because a lot of times when you change how you eat, even if like you're like, but I'm eating healthy, but is it really healthy for your body?
Right. Is it what your body?
It can actually completely change. Well, not completely, but it can give a good oomph to your mental health.
Mhm.
Also, we are a community, not an individual. And if you're making your gut flora angry, they will punish you.
Every one of us
It's not just what's good for you, but it's what's good
is
for
actually a
us.
Gotham City.
Yeah.
Every one of us is a
It's
Gotham
just
City.
like in Osmosis Jones.
It-
Yeah, kind of.
That's actually based in a certain amount of truth.
Oh, I know. I love
Like,
that movie so
yeah.
much.
Oh, the whole like the sneeze thing.
Every
Those-
time I get sick
One
and
of
I
the
take
simple
medicine, I'm
words.
like, yes, little medicine guy, go and destroy the bad things for me.
Also, anytime I eat something suspicious, I think of that Futurama episode with the truck stop egg salad sandwich.
Oof.
You know, if there was a chance I would be eating that could happen, I would be eating egg salad at every truck stop in the United States and beyond.
Every time I make an egg salad sandwich, I think about that episode of like, well, but
I'm
would it be so bad?
I know, I get so mad at Fry when he's just like, is it me or is it the worms? It doesn't matter. I
Doesn't
don't
matter.
Why do you
making it
care?
hard. Yes.
Give me the worms.
To quote the Babysitters Club movie, the brain, the center of the chain. I mean, truth, right? But like, we don't need to put so much pressure on our organic brains to always remember, to always do what is best for us. We have more options in the 21st century, including apps, as well as, yes, we did put a section in to the outline for analog brains. Paper brains are still nice. Look, did you know they come with Post-its? I'm just saying. So yeah, we wanted to talk about all of it. Hello, yes. So Tom, where shall we start?
I don't know. I am not really the one for
All right, Megan.
Well, should we talk? We sort of went over what a second brain is, but do we want to kind of go more in depth in what, like, I don't know.
I guess really it should just be first, why do we need second brains?
Because I'm a
You know,
dumb.
let's
Because the
take the
brain is
judgment.
fallible.
Let's take the
My
judgment
memory is
out of it
shot.
that people tend to do. And let's talk about here's the benefits. Here's why you might want to consider one form or multiple forms, as Heather's already brought up, of having, external brains.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to remember that the human memory is the most fallible thing about us. Every time you remember something, you are literally retrieving it from your memory system and then re-encoding it back in. This isn't like a filing cabinet where you're just kind of looking at something, or a file on a computer. Those analogies really don't work. And so every time you remember something, you are changing that memory slightly. This is where you have to really be careful if you're someone like me who suffers from constant rumination, because a very happy memory can be re-encoded as a very dark, dismal memory through your own rumination and thought processes. So it can be extremely important, whether you suffer from depression, anxiety, or anything else, to record as accurate as you can a memory of a situation so that you can refer back to it at any time and help keep yourself from adding shades of darkness and villainy into your memories that shouldn't be there. We should never think of our memory as an actually reliable thing.
Mhm.
It is a story that we're telling ourselves and changing constantly.
And that is why one of the oldest forms of, second brain that everyone should be familiar with, and people don't talk about except in the therapy circles, one of the most useful forms of second brain is the end of the day journal or diary.
Yep.
Of simply recording the events. Because while they're fresh and they haven't had much rumination or anything, they just had that experience, you're better able to write and note what the emotions and situation was, versus even a week later, you will have had a chance to rewrite and change a bit of the emotions and viewpoints and even what happened in your head. And so if you have something external you wrote to refer to it, it helps keep those memories from being misused by your brain to reinforce negative cycles of thought.
When I was going through my unscheduled mental health vacation, I used the app Day One, which is available, I believe, on iOS, Android, and as a web app. It's a Day One, and it is it's just a journaling app. You load it up, it has the dates in there. Back in the day when social media was less horrifying and we were actually talking about what we did during the day, it actually had auto imports for both Facebook and Twitter. So it would auto import your tweets and your Facebook status updates in there. And at the end of the day, I would go through and edit them into a story of my day, incorporating those in the moment ideas and pictures and stuff that I was sharing. And it really did help with the rumination, because I can so rewrite a memory in like no time flat, especially in those kind of dark places that I was. And it helped so much in getting out, because I could go back and reread what had actually happened, what I had written at the moment when it happened. And that was invaluable way for me to deal with all of that when I was going through it. And I still use it from time to time for that purpose. But it's a nice little diary. And just so you know, it can be extremely private. But remember, if you set up I don't want anyone to ever be able to read this, if you lose your password, they can never help you. Encryption takes place in the app, not on the server level. So if you use the high encryption on it and you forget your password, they can't help you. which is nice. You don't have to worry about somebody stealing your memories and, you know, using your diary against you.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's very important to say up front. If you turn that on, make sure it's a password that you will not lose or forget.
Another thing that second brain apps are really helpful with is if you have like ADHD like I do and you're very distractible, you know, you can just take a quick note, throw it into just a section that you maybe have labeled quick note like I do, and then you can organize it later at the end of the day or when you have more time available so that, you know, you can use that information later. And it really helps, you know, when you're in the middle of a conversation and you're like, oh, you know, someone tells you something like, oh, we're going to be meeting on this day and time. You can just input it into your phone, the information you need, and then you don't have to try to remember it later, or you don't have to worry about getting distracted and forgetting things because it's always there for you.
Nice tip.
And let's see, what are some other uses for second brains?
Well,
I mean, there's so many uses.
If you're a writer, it is very important to have one set up for yourself to keep track of your world building, your plot ideas. Never assume you're going to remember where a plot is going. Write it down. If you have a character arc, the moment you go, oh, this would be a fun character arc, write it down.
If you're writing something kind of like I do, that is based in reality and you're doing research, or even if you're not based in reality and you're doing research, use it to store your research so that you always know, like, oh, this is the source that it came from, so that way you can refer back to it later. And you can also keep your notes along with the link to the source that you have, so that way you can have it all in one place and you don't have to like try to remember, go through your search history to try to find it. Like it'll all be there for you, and it makes life so much simpler that way. And another thing you can use it for is to keep track of, like Kat mentioned, your story Bible, like the whole you're keeping track of your characters, your character worksheets, like what are your characters like identifying features and personality
Random
quirks.
important items.
Yes. Exactly.
Or if you're like me and like to put in like a lot of weird random items that you have, like maybe I'll use this as a callback later in the series. If you're not writing those down, you're not going to remember them later.
Exactly. And with some apps, you can also include information that is like, you can include pictures, like pictures of the characters you've created, or maps of the region that you have created, or maybe a map of a region that you're just writing in. You can input videos, clips, like with certain apps there's like space limits, like how much gigabytes they allow, but you can input a lot of different types of information and put it in one place, so that way you don't have to try and like remember where you've kept things. You know, you can keep it all in one location, so you don't have to like have 50 apps open to get one thing accomplished, which I really like about it.
Well, now I'm trying to remember, what is that? I didn't think about it as a second brain, but now that you've mentioned those, it kind of is. That website for, it's like 15 plus years old. I just remember like it's a little green thing, and it was always to import your bookmarks.
Oh, there are a couple of those, but yeah, that's what back in the day, like for anybody who isn't old like me and been on the internet forever, that's what Delicious.
Like Evernote?
What?
Pocket does that.
Evernote?
I'm thinking of Evernote, but yeah, also Pocket.
Yeah, Pocket does that. I use Evernote. I've used Evernote forever,
Yeah.
because it has two features that I love. It can actually do to-do listing and stuff like that for you, and you can create and destroy notebooks, and I do that all the time, especially for a research project. Notebooks will appear and disappear in there. But the biggest thing with Evernote that to me is life is their web clipper.
Yes.
This to me is one of the most important features for any app, and so few apps are putting them on there nowadays. So when you're reading a blog post or you're on a website, being able to click a button, highlight the area that you want, it just grabs it, puts it into the folder that you told it to put it into. That is so valuable, especially when you're doing research, because it also will grab all of the citation information so you can go back and read the full article later. But I don't know what I would do without a web clipper.
So the nice thing is Notion has a sort of a web clipper. It only gets the link really and a little bit of information. But you can connect Evernote to Notion and have all of your Evernote notes that you clip go into Notion automatically. So then you can organize them later. And then if you have everything in Notion, it's one way to keep everything in one place so you don't have to flip between apps. And you still get the benefits of using Evernote without, having to, flip between different apps. So that is one of the other benefits of that.
Yeah, if you're like everyone in this panel right now, you're a very curious person, and you will go down some rabbit holes of research, finding some really interesting things, but then later on, retrieving it can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And then just sort of organizing it can be difficult, and that is part of where these all come in. And they've all got, their best uses and their other uses, and, as you see, everyone... in the end, it may be a combination of this is great for this, but I like this one for this part. And you may even just, like another sign that you may be neurodivergent is if you have 3 different communication apps on your phone that you are carrying on 3 different conversations at the same time with the same person.
What?
Because
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Because it's an easier way to organize, but you are, flipping different thoughts, and it's easier this way that you don't confuse the conversation with the same person.
Mm-hmm. Or
the same way.
You know them, and they prefer to get their links at this app, so you send it to that app. But you both prefer to chat, or it brings out the chattiness in a different app. So you're chatting in one app, you're posting links to in another app so they can store it, and then eventually it's like, well, all right, meet me in StreamYard just for video chat while you're still texting each other and posting links.
I'm sure Notion has a version of this, but one of the things that's been really helpful over the years with Evernote is they allow for shared folders where people can, so when working on collab projects with each other, being able to have that shared brain where each of you can be throwing things in, each of you can be leaving comments in there and really marking everything up, because it can be really trifling sometimes when one person always uses like Google Docs or something like that, and the other person uses a different app. Finding that agreed app for a group project, because if we're this as bad as we often are, and let's be honest with ourselves, we're terrible at remembering things, group projects are exponentially worse, because half of the time it's not even that you forgot something, it's that somebody thought they said something and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're having a thing where you're like, oh, I forgot that you said that when they didn't actually say it. So having a joint place where all of that information can go together and make kind of a hive mind situation, so everyone can see the notes, everyone can see what you're working on, is so vitally important for any group project that you're working on, because it can also be the problem where I have a tendency to repeat myself a lot, if you haven't noticed. And so having a group thing like that stops me from having that one really bad silencing issue that I have where I feel like I've already said something 20 times and I haven't said it once yet. So having that record where I can go back and look and go, oh, actually, I didn't say this yet. Here, let me put this in here, is really important, because not only is our memory unreliable, but sometimes it's unreliable in a way that it prevents us from even putting stuff forward.
Another feature that I really like in Notion in particular, I don't know about other Second Brain apps, but it allows you to set up like reminders on any piece of information that you input into the app. So all you have to type in is like at, and then when you want to be reminded, and it'll set up a reminder for you to look back at it later. So if you have something that you're like, I need to remember this for next week, and you can like remind yourself 3 days in advance or something, just so you have it available, you have that reminder like, oh yeah, I need to check this out so I can do, XYZ. I really like that feature that it works with neurotypical brains, or just brains in general that are prone to forgetting things. It makes life so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
And the other really important tool in this for so many of these apps is interconnectivity. In other words, being able to link one note to another note, so that you can start basically making yourself a murder board for your ideas. Because a lot of times what really hurts us is not so much that we don't have the ideas, it's structuring them that is the problem. It's putting everything in the right order to suddenly go, oh, that's what I want to do. So you need something that'll give you, that red string and some thumbtacks so that you can start putting everything together. And some of the best apps have really robust ways of doing that, and some of the worst apps pretend that they're going to help you remember everything, and they're just a simple notes app that doesn't even have folders. So think about how you like to organize things, and take that into account when you start looking at any kind of a second brain app, and be experimental. Play around. If it has a feature and you're like, I don't even know what that is, play with it, try to use it. It may be the one thing that you're like, oh, how have I lived my life without this ability to do this thing?
Or if you really get stuck, there's always YouTube videos to see how other people are using it, because that's a great way to get like tips on like how to be more efficient with the software.
Sometimes it's really intimidating to start one, or even to play with one, because you're like, what if I
too many choices at once and you get overwhelmed.
Yes. So
and
like
seeing somebody step by step, here's how I get ready for my week, or whatever their video is about, can really be helpful for hand holding and like take me by the hand and walk me down your primrose path.
Yes. And don't feel like
Jennifer Brown asked Charlie, murder boards are in my wheelhouse.
Oh, I use Scalpel all the time, and if I actually showed half of my scalpels, it would be like, I really feel like that meme of the guy with the
Charlie, where it's like, and this is the. That's
I had a giant cork board, guys. I would have so many murder boards.
Yes.
Also,
and like the real fun is attaching the string to each page.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. Like, don't just be like, well, this one didn't work for me, or, well, I got this account, even though it's a free account, I have to do this one. Right. It's okay to be like, this doesn't work for my brain.
Right.
This doesn't work for me. And then bounce between them. Or maybe you might find a combination of them that works for you. It might not just be one. You might end up actually using two of them and just be like, but this one is for all of this type of thing because that works with this thing that I do and how my brain is processing it. But this one works for my day-to-day life type of thing.
the most important part in all of this is figuring out your daily practice. Like
Mhm.
what are the tools that are going to be most accessible to you? So for me, I always have my phone on me. So having phone access is really important for me. If you're not so much on your phone, having a phone app might not matter for you,
Mhm.
right? So you need to be thinking about your use cases. Where are you going to be wanting this? Where are you going to be using it the most? And what is the method that is going to help sort through all this? I actually have about maybe 3 or 4 different apps that I use on a regular basis, and each one is kind of dedicated to a different thing. So I know, and because of the way my brain kind of works differently on those different topics, so when I'm doing stuff for Creations Past, I actually have like a very elaborate folder structure in the Notes app on my phone that works better than any of the other apps that I use. And I don't know why my brain works better for that way. That does not help me at all when I'm doing story work or just general life stuff. But for some reason, for those projects, those apps in my notes app, just that's how my brain wants to do it. And really developing kind of an introspective gaze where you're not just looking at this as, well, is it working? Because is it working is not the question you need answered. The question you need answered is it working for me?
Mhm.
I could probably adopt Megan's routine and make it work, but it's not how my brain functions because brains are very different. So don't just think that you have to adopt somebody else's thing and have it be just good enough. The whole point of this is to adapt anything that we're saying and actually have maybe a day of the month or a day of the week where you sit back and just evaluate, is this working for me? What could I do to improve the functionality of the system that I have? Because if once you start working in this realm, you really are moving into system thought. And so you need to be questioning every little thing. Are the tags not working for you? If you're never clicking the tags, why are you spending all of that time figuring out what to tag everything with? That's just eating up your time and energy that you don't need to spend on things. So making sure that you're giving yourself a moment periodically to just challenge the way you're using any of this technology and make sure that it's actually benefiting you and your needs and not just it's good enough to get by.
Right.
I find that everybody's brain works differently, like, especially with writing processes. Like, there's a whole spectrum of how much do you need to plan out ahead of time, how much is record keeping after you've done something, how much is just feeling your way through. And I think that's the same way with this. Is something that works for some person might not work for the other, and you might be on a different wavelength of what do you want to be recording.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I mostly just go analog because that's just how my brain rolls. So but I use it for the planning, the recording of the execution, and sometimes when my brain is okay, I will do a month in review type of page. Like, how did it go? What did I accomplish? How do I feel? Type of thing. So there's all different sorts of things you can use it for.
I don't know if they have an Android app, but there are times when I just don't feel like typing anything down, but I need to preserve a note on something. And while voice dictation has gotten a lot better on a lot of apps, sometimes when you're in a hurry, you don't have time to check and make sure it got all of your words right. And then you go back and you read the note and you're like, I have no idea what this is because it got like the key words wrong when it was typing you up. There's an app that I have on my phone. It's called Just Press Record.
Mhm.
And it's literally that. You load it up. It's a big red record button. You tap it and it starts recording right away. But it it automatically makes a transcript of everything that you record with the app. And I can put that into my notes with the audio file. I can just ship it off to Evernote or wherever I'm going to want it later. And that way, if the transcription is wrong, I can hit play on the audio and hear what I said out loud and go, oh, that's what I actually meant for this note to say. And that has been very helpful, especially when on the move. And that's kind of what I'm talking about a lot when I'm saying find the things that are going to work best for how you function. Because I know, I was that kid that had the micro tape deck when I was in school because I could very quickly capture all my thoughts. Those never got typed up, but they did get listened to again. And apps like Just Hit Record are really nice because I can have that experience again, but it's already typed up. So if it did type it up right, I can just copy and paste the text wherever I need it.
So, kind of with that and with what CB put about, like you plan them and then you never follow through with them, sometimes you might be overcomplicating it. If you are neurodivergent, simpler is probably better. So, because I'm thinking about this just because I am reading a book on organization. I'm like, this works digitally, not just physically. Put it where you use it. Don't put your character information for your main character in your buildings. For example, like that's just the most drastic one. My brain was like, yeah, don't do that. But like, maybe simpler and then put it where you're going to use it, kind of.
Also,
situation.
I've tried the whole like set a timer, have an alarm that goes off to remind you to do things, and it works for some things, not for others. And so I've resorted to having a friend text me every day when it's time to take my meds. So it's like I would feel so guilty if I didn't take them when they took the time to personally text me. So it's like I took them, thank you. So like so
Yeah, you got to find workarounds that work with your brain in particular. Like I have my Notion set up so that it is all I have to do is when a thought comes into my brain, I just input it into the space that it needs to go in, and then I can just let it go. And I have it set up so that it's so easy for me to do what I need to do that it takes almost no effort at all to do what I need to do. And getting to it took a lot of work to get to that point. You might have to invest some time initially into like setting up a new system or setting things up. But once you have things set up, once you have it working for you, then it's really easy to just maintain. And when it's easy to maintain, you know that you found something that's working for you, because it won't be a chore once you've figured out what works with your brain.
Yeah.
I would like to just give this little bit about my own experience. So, and fair warning. So again, this is an analog system. Hello, cool gamer. So way back in the day, it was, picture it. It was the early 90s, and I was newly married and trying to stay organized with juggling a marriage, a extensive home renovation, a video store, and going to college for my bachelor's degree in education. And I was drowning. And this was before anyone in my family realized that I had ADHD, which is hilarious now to look back. But there was this idea of what ADHD looks like, and it was a very, stereotypical idea of a male presentation. It's hilarious. When I did finally get diagnosed, my psychologist told me of like, he was the diagnosing expert in this. And he's like, well, actually it's not ADD, it's ADHD. And I'm like, excuse me, what? I already had a degree by that point. I had gotten my bachelor's degree in elementary education with a specialization in curriculum and special education. Like specifically, one of what I was trained for was to recognize ADD and ADHD in children of all, genetics, and be able to refer them to experts for possible diagnostics. And I'm like, but I'm not hyperactive. And he's like, are you joking? I've literally watched you move 26 times in the last 2.5 minutes. I'm like, is that not normal? I just trying to get comfortable. He's like, yeah, no, you are not normal. No. What? He's like, did you come in here thinking you were normal? That you were just gonna, I was like, no, I don't know what I thought. He's like, there's a reason I specifically did not give you a spinny chair this time. Did you notice I switched chairs on you? I'm like, yes, I was disappointed. He's like, yeah, that's because you literally spun 360 3 times in our last meeting. And I wanted to make eye contact with you. I was like, but I hate eye contact. He's like, yeah, I know. I figured you might give me some guff, so I wanted to prove to you. Yes, so manipulative. But anyway, okay, so picture, this is way before that. And I'm trying, like, my house is so cluttered. Oh my God. Because I've also married somebody who also was undiagnosed ADHD as well. So the two of us, he came with 3 entire storage units full of household things that he had never organized or thrown away or whatever. Every time he'd get deployed by the military, he'd put his entire household of things in a storage unit, pay a year's worth in advance, and go to deployment. And when he came back, did he unpack his stuff out of the storage unit and set up house again? No, he bought all new things. So this is what I married into. And so I was trying to get organized. And I came across a lot of this talk on bulletin boards so long ago. But it was digital bulletin boards, not physical ones, talking about the Fly Lady method. Now, I want you to be warned now. The Fly Lady, definitely, I don't really do her stuff much anymore, in part because I would say that she is more conservative, dare I say, possibly regressive. So I'm not trying to tell you to go to her website or download her app because things have changed. And just like the rest of the South, 20 years ago, she was far less exclusive, I guess I would go with. But this was 20 years ago, and this is what I want to tell you. So anyway, I found the Fly Lady, and she had a small website, but it was really just you sign up for her emails, and she would email you her daily essays, her reminders. You would get 15 reminders a day to do various activities like put on your shoes, brush your teeth, make your bed. And, it helped. But in her story, she talked about where she got her original organizing stuff from 2 other women from the 80s, Jill, who had a whole organization method that was based in 3x5 cards. In one of those kind of little kitchen boxes, like recipe card box. And how you're supposed to go through each of, your daily cards every day. There were like 5 daily cards that include food. Have you eaten? Have you made food for your family? And laundry. Have you thought about it? You could probably reboot the washing machine, that sort of thing. And while she appreciated these women's organizing, she just found that the 3x5 cards didn't quite work for her, in part because she didn't really. So the idea was, if you are the kind of person who pretty much your kitchen is your quote unquote landing place, that's where you're spending most of your time. So yes, this was geared at housewives and house spouses. Let us say house spouses. That the kitchen card, the recipe card box would be what would feel natural to you. Versus for Marla Sealy, I think, the fly lady, she did not find that worked for her because she had several children and she was always, she felt like she was a soccer mom who were always out bussing their children around everywhere as well as running errands. And so what felt better for her was a binder. And so on. And so that is what I want to point out. Now, the binder system actually worked for me because I was already doing something similar. I had already sort of figured out a biohack for my own brain a few years prior of, okay, so here's how it goes. Especially if you have ADHD, here's the biohack that works for apparently almost everybody with ADHD, whether you're diagnosed or not. If you can make a behavior a routine, it does not use up your precious executive functioning for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your routine is. And I had sort of figured that out, but in order to make the routine, that was the hard part, right? So, because I had originally worked at this company called Cellular One way back in the 90s in customer service, and they were advocating the Franklin Covey system. And Franklin Covey was also pushing the routine thing. And so, but I was having trouble establishing my routine. So I set up, so imagine, if you will, a numbered list of things. Like, in order for me to leave the house, I need to have my car keys, my wallet, shoes, pants. Yes, pants were on the list. Trust me, I walked out to my car a couple times without pants.
Yeah.
I literally, like y'all, I lived in an apartment complex and I'm walking out with just bra, top, underwear, shoes, no pants. Lori, did you not notice putting on the anyway? No, I didn't. Anyway, it's first.
Can anyone imagine why Glory is so related to what was that? Oh, I can't remember all of a sudden. British movie, American actress though, always has to gain weight to play the role.
Kate Winslet?
No.
Bridget Jones?
Bridget Jones, yeah,
Renee Zellweger. So I did walk out without pay. So anyway, so I had a routine up by the front door with the numbered list of all the things I had to have with me in order to leave the house. And I had another list on the bathroom mirror posted. Literally, it was a numbered list, and it included wash face, brush teeth, take medicine, because I kept my medicine in the bathroom back then, and so on. And that worked for me because Fly Lady took all these numbered lists that I already had around my house and put them in a binder that you just are checking your binder and then you're flipping through each day as you get through. Mm-hmm. And that, honestly, it really helped me quite a bit. I'm not saying it would necessarily help anybody else, but what I am trying to say is you are so much more likely to find an organizing app or system or whatever that already sort of intuitively works with the way your brain is functioning already and what your behaviors and your routines already are. So again, if you check your phone a bajillion times every day, and one of the things you always open up, say for instance, is Instagram, I'd highly recommend that if you find an app that you really like, put it right next to your Instagram button. Right next to the Instagram app, have it right there.
I have it as a widget. Mm-hmm. I have it both as a button and a widget.
Very
so
nice.
All I have to do is click.
Yep.
And it shows up.
And so that's what, like, again, if you are neurodivergent, more than likely you are going to have so much better success if you take something and you hybridize it. So I took my routine list and put it in the binder.
Okay, but you left out that one intermediate
What's that?
Piece as well. Huh?
Having a printer and artifact of the 20th
century? No. So, well, yes, you did have it in the binder. And that was a great way for you to remember the big sets and everything. The sub part of that, or the, I don't remember what it's called, was you then had super sticky notes.
Yes.
That you would then post at the locations, such as the mirror in the bathroom or on the door your as well as the door beside your bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Set in a particular shade of sticky note that stood out to you. So remember, not all the sticky notes work for you.
Yes, not all the colors are eye-catching for me.
Mhm.
And you would write on there in bold marker.
I had to use Sharpies.
Yeah. What the note is to remind you, because your eyes would always scan over, but yes, truly.
Exactly.
And that was the other part that really helped you is
Yeah,
you
I
still
needed a
need
visual reminder by the door. Check the leaving the house routine. So I'd go back, I'd remind myself essentially every time I tried to leave the house, I'd see the, it was actually super sticky this size,
Mhm.
written, check the house, leave the house routine. And like there might even be like a couple quick words such as pants, keys, wallet, like a short abbreviated version. But the longer version was in the binder, and the binder was always out and open on a table. But again, that is because I needed something already open. And this was way before smartphone. This was so long before. This was before I even owned a laptop. I only had a tower computer, and my God, those things were not convenient. Partly because they were so huge. And the monitor, y'all, the CRTs, the legends do not tell you how huge they were or how heavy. So I couldn't put a CRT just anywhere in my house because at the time I mentioned the incredibly extensive DIY renovation project. The floor could not handle the weight of my desk with the tower computer and the CRT. So it had to be in a corner of a room where it could handle more of the weight on the floor. Otherwise, because Tom already walked through and fell through the floor once in the living room in the house.
No.
Oh, yeah. So again, I had to figure out what works for me and not give up. Now, this is what I want to tell y'all. And then we really will go to break. But here, I want you all hear me. If you're going to hear one thing I say, this is the thing to say. There is only one trait that humans possess that is the clearest indicator of future success. There is literally only one trait, and it is persistence.
Amen.
It is not intelligence.
Mm-mm.
It is not education. It is not genius. It is not gender. It is nothing but persistence. So that means you do not take no for an answer. You do not take one failure as, oh, I just can't learn. Oh, I just can't find an app that's for me. No. I want you all to be successful your entire lives. So this is the one thing I'm trying to teach every one of y'all if you don't already own it. And that is persistence, persistence, persistence. You just keep trying and you never give up. If you are old enough, you may have seen in many schools, I saw them, there is a photocopy image and it says never give up at the bottom or something like that. In the picture, the drawing is always a pelican, and coming out of the pelican's mouth is a frog that is trying to strangle the pelican. And at the bottom, it says never give up. And like, I want you to think it's in the frog is in the pelican's mouth.
What's the core memory unlocked?
Yep.
You can just literally just search "never give up frog."
It's the never give up frog.
Different versions.
Yeah, sometimes it's a pelican mouth, sometimes it's in just a regular bird mouth, but the frog is coming out and still trying to strangle the bird. And that is the surest indicator of future success, is that you have cultivated the personal human trait of persistence. And the reason why is because life is hard, y'all. Everybody has a tough time. Yes. Who hasn't seen this? Here, you've now seen it. The Never Give Up Frog.
Yeah, I never saw that.
I can't say I've
I
seen it
remember
either.
that. Yeah.
How have I seen this?
Yes.
I feel like I should be the one who hasn't seen this.
Yes.
Teachers were old.
Heather has seen it. Yep. Everybody does their own version of it. All versions are valid as long as the frog is still trying. Because this is the surest indicator of future success. Take it, put it in your Notion app, copy it over, whatever you need to do to remind yourself, never give up. Because you cannot find success the first time. or the second time or the 5th or the 10th or the 20th time because you're neurodivergent. So you're going to have to blaze your own trail. And you need to remember that. Never give up. That frog is halfway down that bird's throat and the frog is still like, no. That is the point. And that's what I really want you all to take away from it. If you're ever going to find an app or an organization system that helps you in any way, let alone preferably helps your writing as well, you are going to have to use the trait of persistence. And if you do not already possess this trait, you're going to have to cultivate it. But I know every one of you can do it. I've taught it to every one of my students. I've taught it to senior citizens. Every one of you can learn it, because if I can honestly teach it to children and senior citizens, regular adults can pick this up.
Also, the other part is there is no perfect way. There's just a way that you're enjoying using now.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is no, this is it. It's this way or never a way. It's
Right.
have fun with it. See if this way works for you. If it does, great. Play with others, but just keep playing with it. Never stop playing. That's how you keep that persistence going, is that there is no one single answer. There is, what's this doing? What's the best way this works for me? How can I use this? Well, what about that? What's a fun way I can use this?
And
What's the way I can use that?
as you grow older, as your circumstances change, as technology changes, what works for you is going to change. So I came up with the binder, or I was using the binder system before smartphones and before I even owned a laptop. I mean, laptops existed. I just didn't have it because they're so expensive. And they weren't that high processing power that they are now. And Tom knows I need high processing power because Glory got a tab problem. I have always had a tab problem, but before it was a tab problem, it was honestly a Windows problem, in that I had a million windows open. Before that was where they then came up with the tab, because my point simply being, I don't use the binder anymore. Now I use something that's much easier for me to put in my purse because the binder was just too huge. I now use a steno pad. And I honestly use my phone. Tom and I use the Telegram app, which is actually a chatting app. And I use it to organize my stuff because, again, what was available 10 years ago app-wise just wasn't working for me organizing-wise. So I made something work for me. Will that work for you? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not, because when you're neurodivergent in your own way. You're not necessarily similar to anyone else who even has the same diagnosis as you. And just like if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. If you met one person with ADHD, congratulations, first one down. About a couple million to go.
And lists don't work for me either. The quickest way for me not to do something is to make a to-do list. That is the quickest way for me. And I have found some hacks, and after we get back from the bio break, I'll talk about that. But yeah, lists are the bane of my existence. They're the quickest way to cause anxiety in me and get me into an anxiety spiral that will never end, and that project will never get done.
Yeah, like everybody who ever watches this is more than likely going to need to figure out their own kind of hybrid system. Whether it's that you're hybridizing between two apps, or you're hybridizing between paper or even Post-its and apps, or whatever you're doing, you're probably, if you ever are watching this, ever, or in the chat, you are more than likely going to need to make your own hybrid system that works for you, your brain. Also, the way you're living your life now. My life drastically changed from when I was doing binders. And I was in school, and I was running the video store, and I was juggling all of that. My life does not even look the same. So, partly because I got a laptop. Oh, the convenience of a laptop. And also because of smartphones. Smartphones changed my need. I didn't need the binder anymore because I could keep all those routines listed in my phone to refer to. And quite honestly, eventually my brain grew old enough that I could actually remember to brush my teeth most days without needing a visual note on the mirror. Like, y'all, so many houses, I found out you could use Vis-a-Vis to write on glass mirrors. And so, like, every bathroom mirror for, like, what, Tom, 15, nearly 20 years?
Oh, yeah.
Had Vis-a-Vis with the whole thing just written on the side of the mirror. In every home I lived in for almost 20 years, people would come over. Oh, can I use your restroom? Yeah, no problem. And then look at my life in the list. It would mention getting dressed. People are like, do you really need to remember to get dressed? It's like, well, you don't live in my brain, so you don't know what I have to deal with. Even other people with similar diagnosis, like, not everybody needs to be reminded to put on underwear every day, but I do. I will totally get to work and then realize, oh, that's why my pants feel funny. Like, y'all, it's not easy being me. So, again, you're going to figure out what works for you. And here's the one thing I did learn, and I would like to share with you, and then we really will go to break. People made fun of me. What, 10, 15 years, the first 10, 15 years of those lists, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
Most people came in my home, including my mother, made fun of me for these lists, that I had the most routine things on these lists, that I had those. And, you know, at first I took the list back down, and I'd only put them up when I didn't have people over, and I'd take them down anytime somebody said they were coming over to my house. And so many of these papers, like, they would be there, and then I put them back. They had like multiple layers of tape on the corners where I would tape them back up, because I was embarrassed and I was literally shamed by people for having these lists. That is the one thing I would like to impart with you. And I realize in the 2020s, most of y'all are like, well, F those people. And I agree with you. But do not ever, ever allow anyone else's weird internalized bigotry to get in the way of you being a happy, functional person. If the Post-it notes make you happy and you love how beautiful the colors are, so you buy, the Rio de Janeiro side and then the Moroccan one, they come in a bunch of different color schemes. If that's what makes you happy, then by all means, you freaking do it. If that is not what makes you happy, don't let anyone bully you ever into using Post-it notes or into using any particular app, or, oh, you should only write your list in pencil, never in pen. You would not. I have been bullied about every single thing I've ever done to be functional, including, I can't believe you use pencils. Yes. Tom has also experienced bullying about using a notepad, and he was bullied at an IT job with other IT people who were like, I can't believe you use a notepad. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? You need to get away from this toxic job.
Well, the only thing that worked out about that, though, was that my boss was also very much in the everyone writes down the notes. You can remove them later, but you have to have written them down at least once.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyone who bullied was very quickly gone, because we don't need those here.
But I want you to think about this, especially as a neurodivergent person. If anyone is bullying you about something that either brings you happiness and is not hurting anyone else, and or brings you functionality in your life, it is that person. It is not your system or how you're doing it. The bullying should be a flag to you that you're definitely doing something right, because it's working for you. So let that persist. And that's all I'm going to say. I hope that, that little pep talk will help you, and you'll remember it. The moment somebody starts bullying, you'll be like, wait, I can vaguely hear Chloe's voice in the back of my head. What is she saying? Oh, that's right. She's saying, fuck them. So anyway, and on that note, how about we do a little breaky break? And when we come back, what will we discuss, Tom? Megan, someone.
We could delve into Notion, since I know Notion.
Sure.
And maybe some of the other apps too.
Yeah, the basic, how do you get started? What do you want to put in there, or how do you outline?
Yeah.
Sure. We'll see y'all in approximately 10 minutes. Me, 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 me.
I'm gonna be honest, you scared me.
I'm eating cinnamon waffles with vanilla ice cream.
Nice.
Num num num.
I will be off camera for a bit while you
Okay.
let me know.
I'll need popcorn.
Ooh.
And I found a bagel in the freezer.
Shawarma chicken with roasted potatoes and squash.
No.
Ooh, yummy.
Brian felt fancy.
I hate you all.
It's so good. Nom nom. You know I live on your hate.
Yeah, but I don't have any of these things. Like, I'm gonna have cream mushroom soup for dinner. And then tomorrow I have to be on a liquid diet. So I hate you.
No.
Oh.
I'm sorry, sweetie. All right. So, Notion.
Mhm.
What you got, Megan?
I'm sharing my screen. So, Notion is a wonderful app because it is so versatile. You can do pretty much whatever you want with it. This is my homepage. This is where I have everything that I use on a daily basis collected in one place, or not even on a daily basis, but just everything that I have that I need is here in one place. So like I've got my crochet patterns over here and my sewing stuff. I've got my copywriting stuff. Charlie and I are planning a podcast. Still have to work on that. Still have to get a job so we can do that. Here's research that I've done, on anxiety, on productivity, and resources I've gathered, so I can have that all collected in one place. But I also have other pages that are different from like this page, for example. Like, let's go to my knowledge management system where I have, this is basically like I use sort of like Evernote. I use the clipper to clip articles that I find on the web and add them to this spreadsheet basically. And I have it tagged by whether it's a book or an article or something else. I have the topic here so I can remember why I saved it basically. Here's the link so I can return back to it for later. If I have a project set up, I can connect it to the project so that when I'm looking at the project in my task management system, then I can refer back to this without having to go to this page. And then I have a summary of what the information is about. So you can do all sorts of things with Notion. It's very versatile. Let's see, what other kind of pages do I have that, like I had my setup for my trip to Europe that I was going to go on, and so I had like all the travel items that we would need, and I also had, like the research for the cool places to visit. I had all that collected. And so you can set up pages based on like what is a topic that you are interested in. Any questions that I can answer, or like,
do you
I
have
can't
any
really see
tables
that.
set up in yours that show some of the different formats the tables can be in? Because those can be sellers.
Yeah, so I have my I can also create a new page in a second, but
I could always
here's-
share mine too.
Yeah. So I have like a task management system. You can do like a calendar view, or you can do like have it listed. Oh, there it is. So it has like everything listed. These are my completed tasks. You can do a variety of different things with that. Let me create a new page.
I was gonna say, do you want me to just share mine? I have some of the other views already made.
Oh, okay, that works. Yeah.
And then you don't have to create another page.
I mean, then I could show people how to create a page because then they don't have to, try and figure it out. It's super simple. All you have to do is click this button right here that says new page. It'll create an empty page. Let's call this Glory Stream. And so you can create, you can import templates. There's a variety of free templates that you can use, but there's a table view, a board view, and a timeline view. Let's create a timeline view because I haven't really shown that yet. Well, I can't. Do you have a timeline view on yours?
Yes. Hold on. Let me find it first.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I do. Also, our notions look different.
Oh yeah.
Because my new page is not where your new page is.
Oh.
And then I also have an extra, I have a create page button, circle button all the way at the top, or I have the add a page down at the bottom.
Oh, see, they changed it it used to be that way for me, and then they changed it. I think I might have I might be on the beta.
Yeah, you might be on the beta.
So mine may look a little different than yours, but it essentially works the same.
I'll just make one of them have a timeline view. And then, okay, hold on. Share screen. Okay, so because you can have tables in multiple views, so this is the normal table view, and then here's the timeline view. So if I add a new task and give it a due date of tomorrow, it's gonna pop up there. And then you can extend it and make it bigger. So you can do the timeline view this way, and then each task will be in its own line, so they won't actually cover each other up. Because some timeline thingies cover each other up, and I hate that.
Yeah.
But the board view that I like is this one.
This is kind of like the Kanban board view. And you can move the things around and
you can do this one in the view that's the progress one with the not started, in progress, or done, or you can change it if you've tagged an item. So I have items that are tagged vlog, writing, and goals. So if I had a second version of the board, so you can just change the view and keep the same tasks and everything on there. It would actually this one would become one. They would just become the different tags, which is really fun. If you like the Kanban style board. Is there another view?
There's the gallery view, which has the images. I can show you the gallery view on mine.
If you don't have images, it'll look like this.
Yeah, it looks like boxes. It's great for images. I use it for where I just had. Oh, I moved the.
Oh, yeah, I don't have any with it.
Where did I put?
None of mine have images.
Should I switch to Megan's now?
Give me a second to find the page real quick. Let me just sewing.
Oh, wait.
Oh, I did it.
No, I don't have any covers there. Like, do I have covers on any of these? No, I
Description
don't.
practice. Okay, now you can flip over to mine.
Okay.
So here I have images, and it creates like a page for each one. So if I click on like this one, I'm waiting for it to load the information. So it has the image that you input into here, but it also has, like, I use it for my description practice. So I write a description about the image that I post, and then it has the date that I created it. You can add other information for later. You can even like set up reminders just by typing at and then having have it remind you, or you can even link to other pages if that is more relevant for what you're doing. You can also, there's a lot of other stuff you can do with it. It's very versatile. It's basically whatever you can think of, you can almost accomplish with Notion. It just takes a little fiddling with to get it down.
I like to describe Notion as a digital bullet journal.
Yes,
that is how I describe it.
It's very much like a bullet journal, and you can even decorate it like a bullet journal. Like, as you can see here, I have some GIFs of like the waves because I like the ocean. And then on my homepage, I've got, all these different images and whatnot, and quotes and things like that to make it more personal to me. So it's not just useful, it's also pretty to look at, which makes it easier to use because, it's not like you don't feel like, oh, I have to look at this ugly thing. And, you can make it look like how you want it. It doesn't have to be like, purple and
but it does help
and
to have
whatnot.
visual interest so you enjoy going back to it every time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Recommend, if you do Notion, make it functional first, decorate it second.
I disagree with that.
Oh,
Decorate as you
The
go.
controversies of the panel have truly.
I
Okay,
know I'm too
You
queer
can
for
decorate
my
as you go,
aesthetics
but
over functionality always.
I'm of the opinion of functionality first so that you know what works for you, and then you didn't just waste 5 hours of your life decorating a page you're about to delete.
Okay.
See, I don't feel like that's
No, no.
I say
more
from
waste.
experience.
So hold on. This is what we were talking about before. This is the difference between what enables persistence and what halts persistence. You have to be able to play at it.
Mm-hmm.
Do not, be careful of setting something up as a final version from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, if there's a problem, it is very disheartening.
Be
Versus
careful.
I learned from that what I want. Let me try this again. Let me get some time, though.
So I wanted to, before I forget, to take a moment to show you guys my story Bible for the novel that I'm writing. So you can kind of see what I do to organize everything. So right here, I have some titles that I've been working on, a nice pretty image to help me, keep with the theme of it. I have a page for every single character I have. I also have a character list so that I keep track of it all. And if you click on the character page, it takes you to the page where I have an image and a little table with all the important information about the character so that I can quickly find everything I need. And then here I have all the questions about this character so that I can remember everything that I need to know about this character. I also have like a playlist because I can connect my Spotify to here. So I have a playlist that is connected to this character and helps me get into the character's personality. So that is one way to do that. Then I also have a page for each setting that I have in this story. So, for example, I have this community center that is a real place. So I have information on the community center. I have a map where it is located, so I know like they have to cross this street to get to it, or the parking lot is over on the west side. I don't, when I'm describing it, it makes it easier for me to do that. I have like the timeline for the story written out. I have it all. It's a big document, so that I know what happens in the story. And then I have all my research down here. So I have it organized. I have a page on the oldest restaurants in California. I've got videos from 1964 that I found on YouTube. If I click on that, you can see once it loads, finish load. You can even watch the videos inside the Notion app, so you don't have to click on the video to go see what the video is. And then let's see. And then I just have like notes and stuff. So I have a little template here so that I can duplicate it anytime I want to. Like if I create a new story with new characters, all I have to do is click on this, click on these buttons over here, and then go up to duplicate, and it'll duplicate it for me. Or I can even just duplicate the page, and it'll duplicate everything inside the page for me. So that way you can create templates for yourself to use later for a variety of projects.
Yes, templates, especially once you've figured out what works for you, make a template, because then you don't have to every time make it from scratch, because that becomes tedious and exhausting. And then you're like, I don't like this anymore. It's not working for me because I'm having to redo it every time. Mm-hmm. But when you make a template, it's a template.
Yeah. It's always there for you to reuse. And one thing I like about Notion is that you can't really mess up with Notion. Like if you do something, you can usually undo. I mean, I don't think there's actually an instance where you can't undo it really, except for if you don't have the paid version, you can't get things out of the trash can after a certain point.
You also can't undo things after a certain, like,
yes.
Like you can like undo it once, but you can't like undo it twice. I can't remember, like there's a number there where like you can undo it this amount of times, but you can't. If you realize you're like, oh shoot, I need to back up 5 steps, you can't do that.
I think it depends on like I don't
if you have the free version, you can't do that. Is what I mean. So just
but it's also not like if you mess something up, it's very easy to redo it. If you like decide like, oh, I want to move something over here, but then you decide, that actually looks really terrible. Let me not do that. You can just move it back really easily without, and you can move multiple things at a time. If my thing would let me, what? Okay, I can do it on my other. There we go. Okay, and then you can move both of them at the same time, and move it back. So you can rearrange things to make it the way you want. And if you don't like it, you can always move it back. It's made for playing around with. It's not meant to be a static document that you just, it's meant to be used as you use it. It's not meant to be.
It's adaptable.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
Also, you can, like, if you're like, I need this character template, like, not on this template page anymore, but you don't want to, like, copy and paste it. You just want to just move it. You can actually should be able to just drag it to another template page, or, like, copy.
That, Or you click this button, move to, and it'll let you move to any page, and it'll just drop it at the bottom of that page, so you can move things anywhere you like, rearrange pages any way you like, and then you can undo it if all you have to do is maybe make a new page and then move everything back over if you deleted the page before. It's very easy to fix things if you mess things up. It's easy to fix.
If you want a step-by-step tutorial on Notion, Tiffany, her channel is TL Russ Lifestyle, has a great tutorial.
TL what?
TL Russ, RUSS.
Hmm.
Lifestyle, all one word.
I'm just looking at this and just feeling anxiety because someone like me, I need structure. Because if I have too much freedom, my mind starts going, I can do anything, and spends all its time trying to figure out what it can do and not doing what it needs to be doing or should be doing. And that's why, like, for my stories, I have fallen head over heels in love with Plotter, and I've used a lot of apps for my stories brains over time. And I guess I should say I am an affiliate with them, so I think I have to disclose that every time, especially since this is on my channel. And if you are watching this on my channel, there is an affiliate link below. But I actually did that because of how much I really, really like the way that they're doing and the updates that they're doing. Because they do offer a lot of templates, so you can make your own templates. I love that they are constantly adding new templates for character and plot in there, as well as different ways to conceive of scenes. Because for me, structure is the one thing that I lack, because I am a wild weed that just grows wherever I can. And if I'm not pruned back, nothing will be done. Absolutely nothing will be done. And
sorry. Continue.
Oh no, I was just saying, I love the idea of Notion. Like it's a wonderful idea for me, but
it's a little too flexible sometimes.
It's way too flexible. I would spend all my time trying to figure out what to use it for and not actually using it. And I don't know how many other people are like me in that, but that's where, for me, like most of my stuff, I have template notes in my notes app. I have template notes in Evernote that I can just duplicate and fill in to give me that structure that I need. Because like I was saying at the last break, the quickest way to get me not to do something is to present me with a checklist, because my brain doesn't start panicking over, can I do everything on the list? My brain immediately connects to, is everything on this list that needs to be on this list? And so I will just obsess over whether all of the to-dos are actually there and not actually doing any of the things that are on the to-do list. So for me, I am the queen of timers. Anything that is time sensitive, I have so many timers on my phone. It's ridiculous. Over the years, I've used a lot of different apps for that. Remember the Milk was one of my favorites. To Do is the one that I use right now. It's the number TDO. It's the one that I use right now. I don't know if that one's iOS only or not. I
think it's available for.
I think that's available.
That's what I was.
And CB, I believe it is. Notion is available in the UK. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure it's available in the UK as well as in the United States.
It's not an actual link, but if you just copy and paste it or type this in, I just put it in the chat. It's notion.so. And that should, because you can use it on one browser or you can get the app.
I have both. It's so useful because you can. I like to sit in bed. Oh, and sorry.
There's the computer app. There's the phone app, or you can use the browser. That's what I mean.
And I really like on the phone app, random aside on this, it has a button that lets you, you do voice to text. So if you are like on the go, you just click the button and you start talking and it'll transcribe what you're saying pretty accurately. Every so often it gets a word wrong, but for the most part, I find it's pretty accurate, at least with an American accent. I don't know if CB would have issues with her accent, but at least with an American accent, it works pretty well.
I would say
you never know with rhodic or non-rhodic how the English will work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say put the caveat with a standard, more standard American accent, because I know when I'm tired or really worked up and my native accent starts coming out, the text-to-speech does not like me at all. Because once you start having any kind of Ozark twang or Southern drawl, they tend to be like, I don't know what foreign language you're speaking, but no.
Or like how I randomly my word slur sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm trying to enunciate, but for some reason my words just start to slur. Like it'll just be a random word I'm accidentally slurring. It really messes up voice to text. It's like, what did you just say?
Also, I did want to mention real quick, just because we've mentioned the iOS stuff a lot, that there is an Android similar, I don't know if I'd quite call it equivalent, just because there are definitely, Apple Notes has some different features, and the same for Android, but Android's version is called Keep, K-E-E-P.
That's the Google version specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Google owns Android.
So you can use it on iOS too.
Oh, do they also have that on iOS?
Yes.
If you have a Google app, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, point. But it'll let you do a bunch of those, including, keeping lists, doing notes, doing audio notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a bunch of those as well if you need something that's a little bit more basic in functionality. If there's too much, if you're like Charlie was talking about, if there's too much play in the app, then it's easy to get distracted. You may want to go to something like Keep, where it gives you a few more functions than Google Docs will.
And Google Suite, which there's a whole, you can use Google Suite, which is Google Calendar, Keep, Docs, spreadsheets, all of it. You can use that as the second brain too.
Mm-hmm.
And Google Calendar has on the sidebar, it has a Keep. You can add Keep to it, so you can access your Keep notes there as well, not just your tasks. What else can you add to that? It's been a while since I added things to it.
And I forget if it was Megan or Laura who someone mentioned about using one tab, and I have to admit, for those of us who like to go down rabbit holes, and then your computer says, but you can't have this many tabs. One tab is a nice way to sort of go between, of where you can just sweep everything into one tab. And then when you want to go back to those rabbit holes, you can just go look at the titles of your tabs in one tab, because no modern browser will actually keep the web page for more than a few hours without forcing you to reload it.
Let me tell you how many tabs I technically have open thanks to one tab, and that would be a total of 100 tabs. And my laptop still is able to run pretty quickly because I use one tab. It doesn't use all of that I can't think of the word.
It doesn't keep the memory locked up.
Yeah, exactly. So it helps you speed up your device a little bit if you're doing a lot of really big research.
Megan,
just click the button and everything will be there for you to refer back to later.
I know technically this is bullying, but I just want to say, in our family, to hear 100 tabs is just amateur. If it's not at least within 50 of 500.
This is proved.
Have you been
like,
researching really?
this doesn't count all the tabs I currently have open. This is just the tabs I have in one tab.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Like it went like it's like our feelings like if you haven't, reached several hundred, are you even researching?
Why are you
When Lori
calling me
says
out?
she has a tab problem, you have no idea.
Hush up, Tom.
Roy's trying for street cred.
Oh,
But I mean, I have to
no.
admit, Megan, one tab definitely has helped because it's like you don't want to close those tabs, but you don't quite have a bookmark yet for which ones you want to keep or go back to. So yeah, like I do like one tab as that intermediary step.
So the methodology that I have adapted for me, because I keep seeing CB talking about the to-do lists, and I am terrible at to-do lists. And so I kind of think of it as grab bag productivity, where I need a basket that I can throw all of the things that I need to do in and just pull one out. I used to do this with slips of paper and a hat. Like back in the day before I had a smartphone, I literally did
like my chaos dice.
Yes. Because if I see, like I said, if I see a list, I start worrying about whether or not everything is on the list that needs to be on the list and not actually doing it. So I basically have various digital buckets that I throw tasks into as I think of them. And when it's like, okay, I need to get something done, I will often just load it up and randomly scroll to something, and that's the thing that I'm going to get done. That has been so helpful because it keeps me from getting locked in. I also keep various things like right in line of sight. So like I have a book that I'm about to be doing a teardown on and a full like read through that for one of the Substacks that I do, and it's literally sitting right here where the light is always hitting it and those gilded letters are shining into my eyes. Just read me, Charlie, read me. Because if it gets out of sight, it is literally out of mind for me. Things that are not right in front of me, that are not present, I really struggle with remembering to do. And that's kind of why I have sectioned off the various things that I do into different apps, because if I load up one app and I see all the stuff I need to do for either the CSC or for Project Shadow or for one of the writing projects I'm doing, oh, now the priority listing is starting to happen again. Which is most important? What should I be doing right now? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. No, everything's in a separate place. That way it's like, I'm going to work on something for Project Shadow right now. I load up where I keep all my Project Shadow tasks, pick a thing, and do it. They're not... That's just the only way that I've found to be able to get things done, because I'm always worried that I'm not working on the thing that I should be working on right now. And I'll tell you from experience, my rational brain knows that is a lie. There generally isn't a this is the thing right now that has to be done. I mean, sometimes there is, and that's what timers are for. But the vast majority of the things that we're working on, there isn't a this is what has to be done right now. There's just stuff that needs to get done. And telling the reptile emotional part of my brain that no, you don't have to worry about those prioritizations is really tricky. And so I've had to work a lot of cheats around it to keep myself on track and keep myself moving forward. And the best actual productivity tool that I've added into my life in a long time is actually a device. And that's my Remarkable tablet.
Yes.
Because I can't browse the web. I have my to-do list in there and a quick note that I can just, it's every page is a thing that needs to be done that I can then just hit the button to export it off to its own document and just get working on stuff. But there is no internet. There is no surfing the web. There is no nothing. There is just the work. and that has been the best second brain that I have added to this house in a very long time.
I mean, we actually need to take a break soon, but that's something Laura and I talked about wanting to bring up about memory and notes in humans, which is that there is a different system in your body and brain for when you literally handwrite something.
Yep.
That it does help your brain remember stuff, which is, and it is not nearly as effective when you type. Typing is definitely much more of offloading thoughts, versus notes are handwriting notes is how you reinforce a thought. And so that is another benefit of using pen and paper, or also Remarkable, or anything else where you can use a pen-like object and take notes, even on a screen. But it's that motion with your hand that, for whatever reason, helps your brain remember stuff better.
And like when I say that this device feels custom made for me, it has a web clipper. So if there's an article that I want to take a lot of notes on, I can literally just in the browser hit a button, and next time I open my tablet, it's downloaded in there as a PDF that I can write notes on and export those notes for other purposes. Like it really feels like, I don't know if, I know neurodivergent people are all different, but I feel like whoever the tech lead for this company is, our neurodivergences are very close cousins.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it works so well for everything that I want to get done. And also slows me down so that I have to think about what I'm doing. And that's something that in our modern world, we really need to be thinking about. We're always thinking about efficiency in terms of how fast can I do something. To me, efficiency is how well can I do something. If I have to spend less time filtering through all of the waste that I am collecting and actually getting stuff done, that's much better use of my productivity than just capturing everything. And because I am a bit slower handwriting than I am typing, it makes me be much more careful with my wording. And I've noticed a lot less rewording and rewriting, especially for like the essays and stuff, needs to happen on the other end because I'm being more deliberate in what I'm collecting in the first place. And I think there is a value to taking things slow. That tortoise and hare approach. Like the older I get, the more my back and legs act up and my brain acts up. The more I realize, like, yeah, I am the tortoise. The hare may get to the line first, but I'm going to be sitting there going, yeah, hi, because I don't have to stop. I'm not going to be winded. I'm going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there is a value to that, and realizing when making things happen faster is not actually aiding your productivity.
Yeah.
You've made me realize, I'm like, hey, I could literally be using the little iPad mini and the pen that my mom is letting me use. I'm like, I could just put Google Docs on it and I could be handwriting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure fun.
Things.
So
But
yeah,
also,
to explore.
sometimes I like handwriting and I would love to be able to, but also sometimes I just can't because I'm in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The joint pain is real and we all hate it.
Oh yeah, like just thinking about writing honestly makes this ache right now.
Well,
And sometimes I
like,
just can't grip the pen, like because my hand won't scrunch up enough.
I grip it too hard. I'm one of those people.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is the older I get, I've always been very photosensitive. Like I love it when it gets dark. I hate the sun. The sun is my natural mortal enemy.
Same.
I just, why is it bright? I don't understand. Can you please go away?
Rude. So it's rude.
It's so rude. And staring at a bright glowing box, there are times at night when I put my sleep mask on, I can see my laptop screen clearly,
Mhm.
still in my vision.
Oh,
And
yeah. How about like all the amount? So in my room is where the router comes in from the outside. And yeah, so the modem's in there, the router's in, like, and it's like we have spent so much time and energy putting layers upon layers of like painter's tape and trying like using a layer of painter's tape, sharpening that, putting another layer on, sharpening that, to like everything to black out the dots, the little lights on the LEDs that say they're working. We have spent so much time and energy blocking it, setting up barricades of clutter so that I could sleep at night.
And that's one of the weird things that the Remarkable actually taught me is my brain wasn't tired, my eyes were.
Yeah.
I thought I was just having a hard time concentrating. I was blaming a lot of my problems on my ADHD because I just don't want to be sitting here typing right now. That's all that this is. Da, 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 da. No, my eyes were just tired staring at the box.
Mm-hmm.
And having a more analog system where I'm looking at it because it's an e-ink screen. I think e-ink screens are going to become a lot more prevalent as time goes on, especially since this does have a keyboard for it, so you can type on it. Having access to an e-ink screen that's not shining in my eyes and realizing, oh, that's what was actually the problem. I wasn't lazy. It wasn't that I was having a hard time focusing. My eyes were just like, I will kill you if you shine light in me any longer.
I actually want a Remarkable because of what you said about it. I'm like, that would actually, because I am sensitive to light. That's why randomly when I'm on streams, you'll just be like, Kat, why are you in the dark?
Yeah.
It's because I don't like the light.
Because the light, it burns.
The light hurts.
Why must it hurt me? I did nothing to it.
But that,
I am delicate magnolia.
But that's been really helpful because of the way that I've developed over the years of just kind of writing these little notes and leaving them in a place that I can access them. Even though there are no apps for something like the Remarkable, I can use its quick notes to quickly capture all those thoughts and then just scroll through and find the thing that I need to do real quick and keep going, because the system is what you're looking for, not the app. What is the system that will, because this is the 2020s and everything's going crazy. So you have no guarantees that any app is going to be there in the future. So what you're actually looking for is the system that will help you offshore this so you're not thinking about it all the time and that you remember it. And once you have that system, you can do it anywhere. You just have to find the tools that allow you to do it. And that's the liberation that a second brain really gives you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's finding that strategy that works for you at the time.
Yeah.
Don't forget, like as Gloria pointed out, just because it works for you at a certain point in your life does not mean it's going to always work for you as functionally at a different point in your life in a different situation set.
Mm-hmm. Like, be accepting that and be prepared for the fact that 10 years from now, what works for you may look different because your brain has changed. So most human beings, their brain goes through a hemisphere preference change every 6 to 10 years. It's really every 6 to 12 years, truthfully. And what that means is you may have by now, if you were watching this, you may have noticed that there was a previous phase of your life where you were maybe more organized or less organized than you are right now. And what I mean by that is things just clicked into place and you understood how to organize things so they were efficient to find. And it was either easier or it was way harder. And that is because your brain periodically changes which hemisphere it prefers for use. And so this is a notable thing about humans, and it's going to keep doing this your whole life. This is just, this is something humans do. So the people who chose accounting and CPA as a career field when they were in college, usually they go through a bit of a crisis about 10 to 15 years later because it's not working for them anymore because they've had a hemisphere shift change and they just can't stand all the columns anymore. They're ready to tear their hair out. They're so tired of everything being so boring and columns and rows. It's just awful. It is soul crushing. And you'll see that they take up pottery or something that is so much more open-ended and creative minded, perhaps, or just more pantsing. They can just literally pants it. They don't have to be as organized in their approach to whatever it is. So often, like I've personally seen CPAs suddenly take up cooking about 10 to 15 years after they chose their career field. Because cooking, and I'm not talking about baking, cooking really allows people to just jazz.
On behalf of Brian, I have to say, why are you calling me out like this?
You're welcome, Brian.
I was going to say,
Didn't he?
yes.
Yeah.
She is describing among other people, not just. But
So,
yes, you know,
this is
certain
The
normal.
sounds I'm hearing from the other room are just
Is
hilarious.
he like, I'll
Yeah, just
get you later.
lots of sighs and.
But here's the thing: in another 6 to 12 years, it'll shift again. So don't burn bridges if you can avoid it, because this
Oh,
is
look, just calling out all the cooks of
All the cooks.
AuthorTube, Glory.
Yes, I am. I'm here to call out all the spouses. But like that is part of how all human beings are, or nearly all human beings. You're going to change your brain just naturally. You have no control over it. It's an age thing. And your brain shifts which hemisphere it prefers to run everything through every 6 to 12 years. And then there's a flip. Here also, let me throw it even worse in, because I remember having these conversations with my father as he's explaining that, you know, he's 36 years older than me, so he's on the other side of this, and it gets worse. He said, here's the thing: the older you get, the longer the swing is. So when you're young, the shift is maybe every 4 to 6 years. Like he was talking about children. The shift hemisphere switch is about every 4 to 6 years. But the older you get, the longer the phase is before you flip. So by the time you're in your 50s, the flip is like 10 to 12. Some people experience it close to 15 years. And then right after they retire, it flips to the other side. And it's like, wow, way to ruin all of my retirement plans. And he's like, this is just part of being human. So you need to kind of, and this is why he was telling me about it in the 80s. I was like an actual literal child. He's like, so you need to be prepared that you essentially kind of end up having two dual lives that you focus on. And that some decades, you know, you focus on a more creative aspect of your life. And some decades, you just love to organize things and make lists, and everything's in little columns and rows, and it makes you happy and it brings you joy. And then other decades, but then this is where I'm wild and free and very bohemian, and I hang out with people who don't wear underwear. And that was what he told me.
Hey.
Look, I'm just telling you what he told me. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, most human beings essentially end up at least desiring to have this dual life, and that they switch back and forth. And it's about every 6 to 12 years. So you should be prepared. And also don't burn bridges, because he knew me. And I'm definitely somebody who prefers to burn the bridge so I never cross over it again.
I will set that bitch on fire.
Oh, yeah. And he's like, try your best not to burn bridges. I know you love it, but please don't unless you absolutely have to, because you'll want to cross over that bridge in another 6 to 12 years. And then you'd be like, oh no, I sold all that equipment. I sold all that stuff when I was having that other kind of lifestyle. And so this is also something to think about, of essentially what you're using for second brain assistance in 6 to 12 years could change. And you need to be prepared for that. And then in another 6 to 12 years, it's going to change again. And this is just the circle of life. And it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And it doesn't mean anyone else did anything wrong. It just means you are actually human. I'm sorry if this hurts your feelings, but you are human.
Oh.
I know. And on that note, we really will go, and we're going to do a little break. What a wonderful time to make sure you have something to drink. Have you checked in with your bladder? Is it snack time? It may be snack time. It's always time for chocolate. I said it and I stand by it. So we'll see y'all in approximately 10 minutes.
Oh, I got
Just
my
in
cookies
time
done.
for street bread. Me mana me. Me mana me mana me. Me mana me. Me mana me mana. Me mana me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are in the final leg.
So, one of the last thing I wanted to make sure to talk about is let's talk about a little bit of human memory and a feature that if you are human, this is how your memory works. Whether you're neurotypical, neurodivergent, it doesn't matter. It's just part of being human.
Mm.
We don't get around it. And that is the origin, quote unquote, of the mind palace. And what that really gets to and about is that our memory, our brain's memory, is designed around location. We have very location-specific memory. That is where even if you have awful memory, if you or anything, you will still have some capacity to survive in the wild because your memories are linked with locations. And so we need to just learn to go with that and accept it and work with it, because that is always going to be your best memory. And that's why, like we talked about, with Glory, and when she was doing Fly Lady, was the sticky notes of having those little notes, location specific, for if you're going to go do this task, here's the rundown of things you need to double check before you go off to do it. Or when you get home, here's the first things you need to check now that you are back here. And it's easy to remember this and make it a habit because it's how your memory wants to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so to work with it, if, this is also why we talk about having multiple apps and multiple objects for external memory, is because if you use an app or a object for a specific type of activity, then whenever you do it, all those memories come back to the surface. It's an easy way to retrieve a specific group. So if Notion is too many options for most of your things, but say it's good for your research notes. When you're in research mode, Notion might work very well for you, specifically for research type. Then use it just for that. You don't have to use it for everything else in your life. I talked about Evernote and OneTab for when you're doing specifically internet research and just to keep track of all those links and web pages. Versus, your household tasks. God, specifically super sticky notes. There's a reason why Gloria and I talk about them, and it's because unlike most Post-it notes, super sticky really does last for years, where you can not only leave it on a place for a year or two, or like above our on the vent above our stove, there is a note that has been there for at least 6 years and is still sticking. Super sticky keeps its word, unlike most things. And there are now even super sticky notes for outdoors.
Outdoor ones
that will last. Yes, they're a bit more expensive, but they won't run. They are made to be rained on.
They'll stick to wood, and I don't mean finished wood. They will stick to outdoor bark.
Unfinished wood.
We've tested it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, maybe you've seen a pole, like at a fence, that is of just natural wood, and so it's split down the length. We've tried sticking these particular outdoor type of super stickies to it, and it stayed for a week in the wind and rain.
Of they're serious. And
I used to use that. I didn't have that. This is a new invention. But before that, what I did was I would use a super sticky like this, or the slightly longer version, And so one day a week, I would devote to running errands, including grocery shopping, taking Cassie to the dog park, going by to see my mother to pick up whatever it is that she has tried to entice me to her house for a visit with. Don't you want to pick up this thing that you want? That she would buy me. I mean, this is honestly, she bribed me. And all the other things from my day. So it would take most of the day. And I would put everything I needed to do. And if I had the wherewithal, I'd even order it in the order I needed to go run errands, like you go from A to B to C rather than from A to D to now I feel like E to G to B, and so on. And I would then mark them off as I did it. And I would stick the super sticky to my steering wheel. Where the horn is, I would literally tape it to that. And then as I accomplished things throughout the day, I'd have a Sharpie in my car. This is why I used to keep a Sharpie in my car. And I'd literally Sharpie it out a big black bold ink. So that I didn't misread it and try to do it again. Because if I used a pencil, I'd try to go back again. You're like, don't you notice that it's been struck out? You don't know the nature of my ADHD and my dyslexia.
And
so, yeah, that was one of the things I used to use it for. But here was the problem. It used to fall off the steering wheel if I didn't tape it. Now they have wonderful super stickies. But otherwise,
they will stick to, the outdoor, those zinc plated wire fence poles as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like they will stick to most outdoor objects. And the other part that Gloria also kind of gets to is the other part of our memory that is highly developed that we don't appreciate, that really work with it. Make your life easier. It's not only location-based, but it's time-based. So time of day or time of the week or whatever, that part is also actually fairly easy to attach memories and habits and behaviors to.
Like in the morning, this is a routine I do, but we don't do that routine in the evening. So there's part of our brain, and it's actually it's part of the geography memorization part of our brain. Just as we remember locations, we also remember our own circadian rhythm and how things relate to it. So what we do when we first wake up versus what we do as we prepare for sleep. I knew one lady, my mother, who could not go to sleep without a piece of toast. And even the last couple months of her life where she couldn't eat anymore, she still insisted I toast a piece of whole wheat bread and butter it and put a little grape jelly on it so she could smell it. Because as she put it, as much as she wanted to sleep, she could not sleep without having at least smelled this. Like if she would inhale deep and then she's like, now eat it. I want to watch you eat it and hear the crunch. Yes, mother. The things we do. But it was just part of her routine and she couldn't stop this need for this routine. It was part of her getting ready and winding down for the night. And so that is what we would do every night, even after she could no longer digest food. So I was the one who essentially had to proxy take over for that. But she still needed to be in the room as I did it. It couldn't just be with the knowledge that existed. But no, she needed to see it and hear the bell of the toaster oven and smell everything and hear the scrape of the bread and the butter on the toast. She needed all of that because that was part of her circadian rhythm to signal to her brain, this is now what we're doing. We're now getting ready for sleep. And she was not alone in this. Everybody has this. Everybody's brain is wired to remember things according to their circadian rhythm. There are people I know who tell me that they cannot feel fully awake until they brush their teeth, or that they have a tendency to mumble after they wake up until they finally brush their teeth. And it's something about it wakes up their mouth and then they can speak clearly and they don't mumble. Like we all have these things. We're maybe not consciously aware of it, but it does exist within each of us. As well as, well, so why don't you biohack it? Set routines by your circadian rhythm as a way to help you remember to do the things that are valuable to you.
And also that way, it's also another way to get around this whole guilt we have of, oh, I have so much time in the day. Why am I not getting more stuff done? Because you're getting plenty done. You just don't always remember what you're getting done. But if you want to make sure you handle these particular tasks, make them habit. Essentially, look at your time budget for how long you can spend on different subjects and do that. Of like, all right, this is as much as I can do with my time budget that I can spend on it. And I've set up my location and timing and habits for it. And if I don't get more of that done, well, guess what? That just shows there are limitations on existence. It's okay. Forgive yourself. You are human.
You literally have 24 hours in a day, and you need to sleep for a fair chunk of it.
Lies.
Somewhere between a quarter and a third of your entire day is devoted to your body doing functions that it can only do while you sleep.
Like DNA repair.
Like flushing your brain out of used waste in order to not have mental health problems. That is a literal thing your brain can only do while you sleep. It actually opens up some kinds of cells and closes other kinds of cells in your brain in order to flush out the fluid and recharge, like put in fresh fluid in your brain so that you don't have a buildup of metabolites that could cause you to, and this is true, you will literally hallucinate if your brain cannot do it or you do not go to sleep in order to do it. So, like, if you stay awake for 3 days, you will literally start seeing things. Some people, it's like, honestly, 1 day to 2 days. If you go 24 hours without sleep. Some people have told me they actually start seeing, like, actual hallucinations in 24 hours or even slightly less than that, like 22, 23 hours. But it can take as much as 72 hours for you to see unicorns and bears that are not there.
Yes, it is a type of metabolite they now found that is.
Yeah, it's a plaque that builds up, and it comes from inefficient flushing. So again, you have to actually be fully asleep for your brain to do this flush each time. And so if you're only like snoozing, it's not going to do it. You need deep sleep to do this. And so, yeah, if you're not able to get deep, restful sleep, your brain won't flush out. And after a couple days, you'll start seeing all sorts of things that are not there, and you'll start hearing things that don't exist. And it's not that, it's not technically permanent psychosis. It is a temporary psychosis that is just from a buildup of metabolites in your brain fluid specifically.
And the U.S. military has studied this one in depth.
They have.
For what they can put their people through and not. And the answer is not nearly as much as you think, which is why they are not allowed to, just like truck drivers, they cannot go as long for active duty as they used to.
You're only allowed in the military, you're only allowed to have a service member work, like where they're on the job, for, I think it's, depending on the job, 16 to 18 hours. After that, after 18 hours, if they shoot their superior officer, legally, the military courts does not hold it against the person who held the gun and pulled the trigger. They hold it against the person who did let that person off duty to go to sleep. And that is because you can actually have a dangerous buildup of metabolites in the brain in as little as 18, 19 hours. Where that person, again, as I said, you will start hallucinating. It's not like any one person, it's all people. Somewhere between, it's about 19 to 20 hours to 72 hours. It depends on that person's biochemistry. But they will start hallucinating and hearing auditory hallucinations. And that doesn't mean that they are like schizophrenic or anything. It means they need to go to freaking sleep. Because all brains need to regularly flush metabolites out. And I don't know why they don't teach this in schools, because people really don't understand that there's important value to sleeping, not just resting your body, but actually getting that important deep sleep in order to not be bonkers. Like bonkers. Like actual the Disney character bonkers.
Gloria, you know why they don't teach this in school.
Because
Because-
capitalism is a dystopia.
Yes. Like, you know the answer. We all know the answer. Many of us don't want to say it.
I mean, I
But-
guess I was the rebel because I used to teach it to all my students. And they're like, oh, is that why I need? Like, yeah, and you're a teenager. You're about to be a teenager. So you need
Even more sleep.
25 to 33% more sleep than you did as a child. And they're like, oh, why? It's like, because adolescence is very stressful and you got extra metabolites because hormones are wild. Yeah.
The other
But-
part, though, I also wanted to bring up, because Gloria said the phrase, and we all have heard in the Western world, at least, this bullying phrase. And so I want to correct it real quick in case it's in your head, which is, yes, we all have 24 hours in the day.
Yes.
No, it is not the same 24 hours for every
No.
person.
No, because having an assistant gives you like extra time, right?
Yes, having money to have other people do things for you really gives you extra time.
Having a dishwasher to wash your dishes rather than you having to stand there at the sink and do it gives you extra time.
Also, having a different functioning brain prepared to do different activities gives you different amounts of time. If you are neurodivergent, you are absolutely aware of the getting your brain to shift into a specific mode to do certain types of tasks can be difficult to impossible on certain days or even times of the year.
Yes, all neurodivergent people have less time in their day than neurotypical people because neurodivergent people are known for having difficulty switching modes of thought for what you need to, like, for instance, the executive function required to do household chores versus the executive function to write or the executive function to plan your next 5 year of life goals. Neurotypical people can switch much easier for this, and they can switch back and forth. And neurodivergent people often are specifically noted for struggling more with the switch, as well as having less in those buckets, like the executive functioning bucket and the socializing bucket. Like neurodivergent people are known for having different size buckets of capability in any given day compared to neurotypical people who also not only do they have maybe different size buckets, but neurotypical people traditionally, the bucket is consistently sized so they can actually predict how much time in each day and they can plan ahead for instance, how much socializing they can handle each day because it's going to be consistent amount of socializing that they can handle so they can predict and plan. And neurodivergent people tend to have buckets that vary in size from day to day of the same kind of bucket even. And it's not easy to predict. Like it's not, you can't just say, well, I'm not going to get as much sleep tonight, so I won't have as much executive function skills for tomorrow. That it's not necessarily like that. It maybe you have even maybe slightly more, but then the day after that, the executive functioning bucket is incredibly tiny. It's much harder to predict, and it's certainly inconsistent. Even when you do get excellent sleep for an entire week, many neurodivergent people actually experience of like, why does the bucket sizes keep changing even though I'm getting consistently quality sleep? Because you got one of the extraordinary brains. That's it. And so it's much harder to predict what you're capable of spending each day that you'll have in each bucket to then spend. So that's also part of why you do not, as a neurodivergent person, you do not have the same 24 hours in the day as a neurotypical person is going to have. You also don't have the same amount as, say, a wealthy person because you can't afford an assistant or all of the modern conveniences. They're called conveniences for a reason. Yes, the babysitters, the tutors, you don't have those things, as well as you don't have the brain that would give you that predictability on a day-to-day basis. So neurodivergent means that your brain developed differently in childhood, and it did not follow the neurotypical milestone pattern that, at least in theory, the majority of humans develop in.
So your brain structures, the physical structures, are different.
And it's also, one way to think of it, Nikki, is it's kind of an umbrella term. So if you or someone you know has ADHD, has autism, any of these
Has epilepsy.
has epilepsy,
Dyslexia.
dyslexia, they're actually this is a term that is growing as we're really realizing how much of them actually are related to brain structure rather than use.
So, like, bipolar disorder is now considered a neurodivergency. Bipolar disorder actually starts in childhood with a difference with the brain, the way the brain develops. So, as does dyslexia, Tourette's syndrome. There are so many things, including epilepsy, autism, ADHD. Like, there's actually quite a long list of. So, it's anything that disrupted or changed the way a child's brain developed into adulthood.
Because it's permanent. It is always going to be different. It's not the hormones were slightly different, and so, they felt a little different and weren't able to, no, like the brain structures, they develop differently. And so just like a crystal, if you put a slight imperfection in, now everything builds off that imperfection. That is how the human brain is, and it is now divergent from a typically developed brain.
So we only bring this up because if you are neurodivergent, more than likely you could benefit even more from second brain apps and other ways of personal planning or personal organization, because you're not getting the same allotment of time in your day that neurotypicals are.
Well, one of the features that we have been remiss in bringing up that goes into what Tom was saying about location is most apps will actually have a geofencing function in them where you can have them remind me when I'm at this store, remind me when I'm at this restaurant,
Nice.
remind me when I'm at this person's address. And so you have to have the location services turned on your phone, but when you arrive at that location, the notifications will pop up. And so you can do that out of mind, brain dumps. But especially if it's a place that you don't go very often, but you need to remember to do things, this is really good, especially if you have a doctor's appointment coming up and there are things that you need to remember while you're there. You can set reminders to remind you when you're at the doctor's office, ask these questions. And they will pop up when you arrive and remind you to do whatever it is that you told it to remind you. This is very, very helpful, especially because especially for places that you don't go that often, that you need to remember, next time I'm here, I need to do this. Because then you don't have to worry about when you are going to arrive, because you can't set a time-based alert for it. But most apps do allow for a destination, a location-based reminder. And that can be extremely helpful for so many reasons.
But yeah, again, one of the first things people we forget as we get older in this whole, now I am an adult, is all the things that held us in good stead as children may still have function. It's just we don't see it done by other adults, including play.
Yes.
And play helps us remember to do things and helps us learn better how to do things. And that's why I kept going on about the play with these apps, play with these organizing systems, have fun with them, do imaginary versions, do put this in as part of your playtime, not just your functional trying to be more efficient time.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the
Because
things
play is how you get better at it.
Yeah. This is one of the things I'm really hoping is going to actually happen with the millennials and Gen Z, is they are really struggling with a very antiquated industrial era 18th century idea of adulthood that my generation we bristled against it a little bit, and the boomers bristled against it a little bit. Like Zoomers have completely rejected it, and millennials are like really seriously questioning it in the best ways, because I bristle so much at any of these terms for being an adult, because they're a set of skills that would put you in good if you are going to a 19th century industrial facility to punch a time clock, do your time, and leave. Almost no job anymore is like that. Even factory work for in a lot of ways
Mhm.
isn't as reliable as it was back then. But
not
we
even close.
really changed the concept of what it is to be an adult in such a long time, because again, we fall into this trap where we think that things are fixed, and adulthood is one of those concepts that's like, well, an adult has always been an adult. No. About 1,000-2,000 years ago, you needed to know how to hunt. You needed to know how to what was edible in the region around you.
How about Charlie? How about even 600-700 years ago in Europe? You would think now an adult is someone who is free to go about society. That was not so 700 years ago, when if you were a peasant, you were stuck to the land and were not allowed to even necessarily go to the next town over without permission.
And
as a freaking adult.
Yep. And the fact that we really haven't adjusted our idea of what it means to be an adult since the Victorian era, really. It was kind of the last time we codified this. And if you don't understand how this is codified, this is what people are talking about when they talk about manners, decorum, all of these rules that people are talking about. What does punctuality mean? One of the things that I learned at the meetings that we just had, because we were of about 3 or 4 different generations there, we all understood the term punctuality differently, as opposed, and not like, well, you show up on time. Yeah, that's the common definition. On time for some people was, why aren't you there an hour early? Because that was a cultural norm for some time. You were told basically the cutoff time, like we're leaving everyone behind if they're not here by this time and moving forward. So it was expected that you were there an extreme amount of time early, right? These norms are what get grouped together to make up our concept of adulthood. Mm-hmm. And as we are getting a better understanding of neurodivergence and things like that, one of the things that we talked about a lot is, like, for somebody like me, if I'm not fidgeting, I will not be able to pay attention to you. Yeah. I will need to doodle. I will need to fidget with something. If I have to sit and stare at you in order for you to understand that I'm paying attention to you, words will wash over me like a stone on the beach, and I will have no idea what's going on.
This whole ban on crocheting at meetings?
Yes.
Oh, I want to burn everybody on fire. It's like the crochet helps me actually concentrate and pay attention to what you are saying, because my hands are doing something so that my mind can then focus on the words coming out of your mouth. Instead of, no, your hands have to be still. Oh, then my mind will not be.
Because I think this is kind of the other kind of analog second brain that we don't talk about that much, is these other things that are used to distract our body so that our mind can actually pay attention to what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so it's very handy to be able to offshore a lot of our thoughts to these apps so that they're not just taking up space in our brain. That is very important to do. But also realize, if you have a hard time paying attention, what are the things that help you to focus? Because that is as valid a practice in this as everything else. And making sure that the people around you understand what you're doing, because, knowledge is getting there. And it's really sad that we kind of have to be evangelical about our own needs and just proclaiming and preaching what we actually need to survive in this world. But until the information really gets into, like Lori keeps saying, why don't they teach this in school? we're going to have to be those people that are very clear of like, no, I'm writing things down because if I don't write it down right this second, I will not know what you're saying. I'm not on my phone on Twitter. I'm taking notes because I will not understand what you're saying. I will not remember this 5 minutes from now. And maybe you are on Twitter because you need those pictures flying past you periodically to keep you focused. Some people are like that. But that needs to be factored in when you're thinking about how to set up your second brain, because if you're somebody that cannot sit in front of a computer typing in stuff, maybe your second brain should not be on your computer. It might need to be on your phone. It might need to be in a paper like Glory and even I still use from time to time that you can carry around with you.
Don't let me fool you. I use paper all the time.
Yeah. But you have to make sure that these are things that are going to function for you. If you cannot sit still long enough to put all of these ideas down, that second brain is not going to work for you. Mm-hmm. And don't feel pressured or guilted into making it work. You need to find the tools that will work for you. That's why we're all sharing all of the different ways that we're doing this.
Also, among other games I have played with this stuff, and I do this like every decade, is the tournament of organizing methods, where you just play with a lot of different ones at different points in time, and whenever one when it has failed you, when you are disappointed in that organization method, you just toss it away, and you start concentrating more on the ones that are still of interest, as you narrow down to what really works.
And that's why I've talked so much about methodology and procedure.
Mm-hmm.
This is, while we're talking about specific apps and things, what the real thing to be taken away from all of this is, are you somebody like me who just needs task buckets so that you can just throw in all the things that you need to do and pull them out at random and get stuff done? Do you need a super organized list? Like, I don't know if Megan's life is actually as organized as I imagine that it is, but Megan always has lists for everything. So I feel like her life is so organized when it comes to this, right? But that might work for you too. But it's about finding what works and then the methods and means to perpetuate that forward.
And as CB brings up, it's okay if the only organizational methods you come up with and use are specific to a task.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's fine. We're not saying, oh, you have to organize your whole life, or what's the point?
Oh, God.
It's here's
CB,
some tools you might find useful.
Another thing you do that's organization is you food plan and food prep. That's way more organized than I am because I just can't.
Every time I read one of Spence's weekend reviews and I see the day of food prep, and I'm just like, to whisper of a dream. Like, I want to do this so bad. We talk about it all the time. And to whisper of a dream.
And as I'm looking, I can't find it. Spence pointed out her also doing these little, week in my life posts has also just helped her mental health as she realized, no, she is getting a lot done.
Mm-hmm.
She just doesn't realize.
I did list, not a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, the to-do list never going to happen because it's super daunting. You're like, oh, where do I start? But an I did list, it's like, oh, wait, I did a ton of shit.
So one thing that helped me was not only doing this is what I did, but also vent about my feelings and just do it as a daily log and mail it to my mother.
Well, I hope you realize exactly how healthy that is, because you need to be recording your feelings along with things. Because if things are really, truly painful, anxiety-inducing, problematic for you, you need to find ways to either alleviate the pain point, pinpoint where it is, or find a way to cut that thing out. because that's just good mental hygiene to be able to be honest about this is the thing that causes me abject panic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she kept all my letters. So when I wanted to, I didn't have a recording, and so she sent me back photocopies of all my letters.
Like, you're not getting the originals, but I will photocopy it for you.
Yeah.
That's a real mom.
Yeah.
It's like, no, these are my originals, but I'll let you have copies because I love you.
Everyone knows that we need to keep all of our Laura things very special for the day when they're worth so much because she's so super famous.
I know. Laura is definitely, like, if we had a yearbook, I would be, as a superlative, electing Laura as most likely to get an Amazon Prime / Netflix / Discovery, deal for a show.
Oh yeah, she's going to be on Disney Plus. I can see it now. She's going to be the Goosebumps of Disney Plus. It's going to be great.
Oh yeah, as I said, she's most likely, at least that I'm voting for. No disrespect to anyone else, but I'm just saying, Laura's got that push. Yeah, Eva says, I get so caught up into how productive I am that I lose track of my real goals and focus instead of deadlines. I want to do lots of things, but my life goals are not to be stressed. Yes. My organization is chaos, but it's selective chaos. I love the chaos. I do like a little chaos, but I also like a little organization. So
I say
meals, like all week, I sort of flit in and out of like, what do I feel like doing, making to eventually get to the goal of a lovely meal Friday night that still only Tom shows up to. Don't know why the rest of y'all keep skipping my Friday dinner.
I'm sorry.
Because it's really far away.
Get on a train.
Transporters don't exist yet.
Train. Okay, it's fine.
I don't have the money for it.
I know. You got all the time. No.
So we actually talked about this a little bit on Creations Past last year in the December session. You also need to make sure that you're setting time, like Tom's saying, to not just figure out which organizational plan you want to keep up with, but are your goals still your goals? Like, you really have to give an expiration date to all of your goals, dreams, and ambitions and decide if you want to renew.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. At least with all the paper ones. Also, never forget our father was right. Oh, I can't believe I said that.
Don't worry, he's dead. He can't hear us. We're safe.
Whenever you write stuff down on a page, on a sticky note, or whatever, date it.
But you don't have to put the full date. All you need is the month and the year.
Yes.
That's it. So like 10/23 is October 2023. Don't stay away from my toes. These socks are not for you.
Get him. Get the toes.
Because you need to know, like, is this a recent, note that I need to, wait, what was I forgetting? Or is this an old note that I just forgot to get rid of? Or, was this something, when did I do this? Because that time-based memory will kick in if you know roughly when you wrote it down, and it will help you remember as well.
It's like dating your freezer food.
Yes.
But that one, do the day, month, and year, please. Please.
But, I don't know if they force kids to read the book anymore, but I'll never forget being forced to read Babbitt when I was in school. And the last line of this book is the most tragic line in very British literature. Never in my life have I ever done a single thing that I wanted to do. And the thing I took away from reading this book, which I don't think is what you were intended to take away from it, because it's really a Victorian book about just be a cog in the machine. Because he then goes on to explain why that's perfectly okay, because he was productive and benefited capitalism. But dear God, this book. But I have kind of lived in fear of that ever since I was a kid and forced to read this book. And so that's really where are your dreams your dreams? Are they your parents' dreams? Are they dreams a teacher put on you? What are your actual goals? being very honest. Like when you're offshoring all of these thoughts and doing all of these plans, there's no point planning for something that isn't really going to make you happy. When we were having our third wedding, the legal one, we had a long talk with ourselves because we were planning this like wedding, like people were going to be getting special clothes, like a whole shebang, a wedding, because we had never had like that kind of a wedding. And we realized very quickly, I've never really wanted like a special kind of wedding, and he had never wanted a special kind of wedding, like with suits and everybody dressed in formal wear and all that. Like neither of us ever really wanted that. So why were we spending all of this energy planning it? So we spent like 2-3 months planning a wedding that neither of us wanted. We just assumed the other one did because, well, we assumed that that's what you do, and then assumed that the other person was the one that was interested in it. So that was a lot of planning and a lot of energy that just did not need to be expended. And the wedding that we ended up having was so much more fun and confused my family so much. It was delicious. Like just, oh, my poor Aunt Karen still to this day doesn't understand why my best man was a woman. And I love that because it keeps getting brought up.
I'd say one of the understandable dangers about lists, especially task lists and stuff, is that there's an assumption built in there that we often forget and we forget to reevaluate, and it's that goals versus tasks.
Oh,
the whole point of tasks is to reach goals, but often we kind of do it in the reverse of where we try to do these tasks, and have a goal that ends up with them. And it's like, so, I mean, really every month at least, if, or at minimum every 3 to 6 months, you really do need to sit down and redo your goals and just go, are these still the goals I want to keep working towards? Or do I want some different goals? Mm-hmm. How am I feeling about them now? Do I need to change my priorities about my goals?
I know this may be overly simplistic for some people, but you have to remember, I am a dum-dum that plays smart well on the internet. The thing that fixed a lot of my understanding about this is when I was reading The Achievement Habit, which is a very actually good book on how to get stuff done. And there's just one sentence in that book where he said, a task is something you can actually do. Everything else is a goal or an ambition. Because that was my problem.
Something you have control over.
Yeah. I kept making what I thought were tasks that were goals. And wondering why I could never achieve them.
Oh,
because I'm a dum-dum. And I know I'm not the only dum-dum in the world. So I feel like this needs to be said. If you cannot actually take action to do the thing, it is not a task.
No, it's not. There's a limited number of things any one of us can do in this world. That's all we can do. And everything else, fluff. It's just dreams and hopes and mood boards. It's not real. Because all that is real is what you can actually do. You can walk the dog.
You talking about my mood boards like that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, y'all, look, as much as I absolutely would love to see the Earth from the moon, that is not a task on my list. That is an aspiration. I would love to know what that experience is like and do it for myself. But it ain't a task because I was not like I was raised with too many morals and ethics, and I was raised to be like to have integrity, and all those things got in the way of me becoming wildly, madly, inappropriately wealthy. And I had the opportunity, but the problem was these morals and ethics, yo.
Behind every great fortune is a great crime, and that is not an exaggeration.
At least one, in fact, not multiple really great crimes, to be perfectly honest. And that was actually what I got smacked right in the face with was, I was not willing to commit multiple great crimes, let alone like I needed to be able to sleep at night. And it turns out I am not, it was explained to me, Lori, you're like a sociopath, but you're not actually a sociopath. And therein lies your true weakness. And that is what I was told by somebody who was wildly and inappropriately wealthy. And he was not wrong, but also it kind of hurt. It kind of hurt because of the tone. It's not what you say, it's the way you say it. I finally understood that. Of like, oh, because this man has a face for smacking.
The tone thing. My stepmom was like, there are some people I can call them a blankety blank blank to their face. But if I say it in a sweet tone, they'll say thank you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the tone of like, this was my shortcoming, that I have like too strong a sense of morals and ethics. It was like, oh, I am definitely not built for wealth.
And if you want to know just how much this is true, you can ask anyone who really studies business, any really rich person, ask like, what crimes did they commit to get to that fortune? And the answer is so many. Would you like me to start a list? I mean, my favorite is what was it? Was it Facebook, I think? Or was it Tesla, where they incorporated it in such a way that the CEO's stock was the only one that could fire him.
Oh, I think that's Facebook.
So like it didn't matter how much everyone else owned stock. He was the only one that had the stock that could decide if he was not CEO anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they incorporated it that way.
Yep. And that is, again, so many crimes. So my point just being, it is about what you can do. And what you can do, you know what you can do. You know how many loads of laundry you can reasonably wash in a week or a month. And beyond that, it's gravy.
Not as many as I'd like.
Exactly. You know how many meals you can reasonably prepare that you are willing to eat in a month. And beyond that, well, that's a bonus, but it's not something you can depend on. It's not something you can set your store by. And while you may aspire to maybe make a meal every single day or even make 2 meals every single day, the reality is the reality. And we need to work with that in order to accomplish real things that will bring us the sense of happiness and fulfillment that you really do deserve. I do not use the D word very often because people throw deserve around like privilege. And I just am like, what do we deserve? Okay. But you do deserve to be able to carve out your little alcove of happiness and to accomplish the things that matter to you. There is no way you can leave the world better than you found it if you can't even do that. Like if you're not, the world does not allow you to. And so you don't ask them for permission. You just go and do it. You do the things that will bring you happiness, genuine happiness, not other people's happiness. You know the things. Like for me, I'm going to tell you right now, you know, one of the things I only realized in my mid-30s, what actually brings me true, genuine, pure joy? Sliding in to comfy, fluffy lounge pants. Oh, God, the decadence of it. Oh, and then rubbing my legs together like a cricket. Oh, yeah. I love
Are they
it.
preferably warmed by the dryer?
Like, those are not for me, but it's cool for you.
Or just normal? Cool. Actually, I prefer them to be like cool.
Yes, that's what it's like. I just like it. And then rubbing my legs together like a little cricket.
That sucks. I don't like sex.
So, like that is, I did not realize that until I was in my mid-30s. Partly because it wasn't until my late 20s that I gave myself permission to buy lounge clothes that were comfortable to me and that fit me, let alone also that I could find. But once I did, and like I realized how much they bring me such a pure sense of joy. Because if you had to live through the 80s, you know how uncomfortable children's clothing was.
Oh God, yeah.
They literally sewed the seams of our clothes with fishing wire.
And why was there so much starchy corduroy?
Actual real fishing wire, Cat.
Yeah.
You know, just
It was-
plastic.
It was plastic fishing line
Yeah.
that they sewed
cheap
children's
stuff.
seams together with. They serged them together. And so imagine that just rubbing against you all day, every day at school, everywhere, every time you move, every time you breathe. You could feel it all along, everywhere, all the seams. And it wasn't just, oh, well, that's just a bad brand. No, it was all the children's clothing brands. It was everything. It was even in the nice stores, because Mom finally had enough of my complaining by the time I was in 3rd grade. And Grandma Marty, my father's mother, gave Mom a pretty sizable check to take me to McRae's, to the very nice department store, and buy me at least one set of clothing that did not have these terrible scratchy seams. And Mom had to call Martha back. And it's like, I am so sorry, Martha. Gloria and I tried clothes for 4 hours today at McRae's, and every single outfit was scratchy. Every single top, every single bottom, even the underwear had fishing lines sewn in it, for sturdy children underwear. And Grandma was like, well, what about Sears or JCPenney's? So I'm like, well, that was part of the 4 hours. We then, after an hour and a half of McRae's, we went to Sears and JCPenney. And it was all of them. We got a total of 12 different salespeople to help us. And everybody was stumped. All we can do is wait till she grows a little bit more so I can start buying her clothes in women's petite. Maybe then, it'll be something. That's what the 80s were like, yo.
Why were all children's clothes made out of fabric that made burlap seem soft?
It was polyester burlap, I swear to God. Oh, God. You can literally feel the suffocation of your skin as your skin tried to breathe. And it was just wearing garbage bags. It was wearing heavy-duty garbage bags in bright, weird colors.
Nothing breathed. Nothing.
Yeah, it was awful. So I'm just saying, it took me decades because of the era I grew up in. But if you are watching this, I want you to really think about, and, look, if you really want an exercise, and I am a teacher, so I'll give you an exercise. Tonight, on a piece of paper or a digital app, something that you will look at later, write down 5 things that you are capable of doing, 5 tasks that bring you pure joy, whether it is putting on the most comfy clothing, your favorite set of clothing, or it is eating your favorite food on the planet that you can go get or make, whatever you want. Write down 5 things that bring you pure, unadulterated joy that you are capable of getting for yourself this year. Not next year, not the year after, but this year. It doesn't have to be this month, because I understand maybe you're like me and you have a strawberry problem. And strawberry season's only once a year. Strawberries are right now. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe your favorite fruit is out of season right now. That's fine. But write down 5 things that bring you absolute, pure, unadulterated joy, and that you don't need to answer to anyone for. You can just find a way to get it. For instance, I love crawfish so freaking much, and it is crawfish season right now. And you better believe every time I set up my whole little crawfish tray of crawfish and melted butter, and maybe some potatoes boiled and crab boil, and maybe corn on the cob, maybe not, and some of my fresh challah roll, so I can literally take a piece of the roll and just run it across the top of the butter. Just let it, I imagine it skates.
Be careful, we're getting close to ASMR here.
It brings me so much joy to do that. And I know that it's not necessarily healthy for me, but I enjoy it, and it is only a certain time of the year, and this is the time of year I get to enjoy this thing. And that I'm really good at making. So that is when I give myself over to pleasure. We put on Jesus Christ Superstar, and I peel tails and suck heads. It's wondrous. That is what it's called, Laura. I did not make that up. That is what eating crawfish is called. You peel tails.
It's pinching tails. Pinching tails and sucking heads.
Sucking heads. That's what it is.
Oh, this stream's no longer safe for children. You know that algorithm's
Was
going to
it-
see that.
Was it ever social or no? We never
I'm
did.
We've
just saying,
sworn
you
quite
know-
a few times.
I'm just saying the algorithm's going to see that and be like, oh, it's one of them streams.
Yeah, it's real crawfish. So, but I know, and Tom knows, and everyone who loves me knows that I love a crawfish boil, especially Mississippi or Louisiana crawfish specifically. And they know that if they have an opportunity, they're like, hey, Glory, how many pounds do you want? Somebody's giving me a deal on boiled crawfish. I'll drop them off. It's like, well, the answer is always 5 or 10 pounds. That's always the answer.
This is also a good way to plan trips.
Yes.
Because when we knew that we were going out to California, we made basically the California bucket list. Like, okay, while we're out there, we have to do these things. We only have a couple days and no free time. Let's figure out a way to make it happen.
Oh, I like, for instance, Chicago. Oh, yeah, we having deep dish Chicago style pizza and also Chicago hot dogs. Oh, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind. I know what I'm eating. And I know where I'm going to get those things. But again, like, these are the things that I have control over. I know, as one of the people planning the trip, that I could be like, oh, no, we gonna get either delivery or we gonna eat Chicago pizza in a location. Because I've had it before and it's freaking awesome. So I definitely want it again. I've never had Chicago hot dogs. I definitely want to try it. We're going to do it because it brings me joy. And it's something I can do. It's nice to have those things of pure joy. So again, your assignment, if you choose to accept it, 5 things that bring you pure joy for this year. Any 5 things, but you're the one who's going to be in charge of getting you those things. Even if it's just identifying them. Everybody needs to remind themselves what brings them pure joy.
And don't accept the lie that you can't get to 5.
Seriously.
That's depression talking.
Yeah, everyone can get to 5. Can everybody get to 50? Like, so one of the things that brings me pure joy is playing with children. Like, literally, we're playing on a playground or something, and we're playing whatever their pretend game is. I love hearing the squeals of laughter and joy of children. It makes me so happy. So if we're playing house, we're playing tea, we're playing rocket ship, whatever they want to play, I love to play in their fantasy pretend game because I love to hear their squeals of laughter. It makes me so happy. It reminds me of that feeling when I was a toddler, when I was a child. And also I love that I'm part of it. It makes me so happy. But that is not necessarily within my wheelhouse right now to secure because I don't know children available to play with. So that's not necessarily going to be on my list of 5. But it could definitely be on my aspiration list later.
I say, Gloria and I think we know that that place you're talking about in Chicago. And yeah.
It was in Chicago, but it was a steakhouse. It isn't open anymore. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the one that Tom and I went to was in Wilmette, actually.
no, there's another one, but I know. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I know which. Went to a few of them, but yeah.
But yeah, like it's whatever brings you unadulterated joy. Not just, oh, it's nice. It is like, nice. Like, that's the stuff. And it might be your favorite root beer in a frozen frosty glass. Because isn't there something just so magical about the little frost crystals building up at the top of your drink? Oh my God, isn't that amazing? And you're drinking it just like, it's so good. Yeah, thank you. But like the things that bring you just pure joy. So not necessarily drinking root beer out of a can, but drinking root beer out of a frosty glass with the little ice bits in the top and just taking that moment where you're not doing anything else and you can savor and enjoy that drink, maybe with a glove on. That's what I'm talking about. Write down your 5 things and really think about how often can you start incorporating that in your life.
Also because, being upset and different things, it'll become hard to remember what those are at different points when you really need those.
Yeah. Put that list somewhere you can see it later. Like maybe it's somewhere you can visually see it, or, my favorite, bathroom mirror. Put it somewhere you can see later so that on your dark days, you can oh, wait, there's a list of 5 things that bring me pure joy. Can I do any of those right now? Can I do any of those this week? Hopefully you could do at least one of them in the next week. So that you have that, and then in the back of your mind, you start planning out more ways to get to those pure joy moments.
And that's one of the uses also of having friends, is that they remember the things you really enjoy because they want to do it with them again.
Mm-hmm. Hence, when we met up with the Dorsets in Arkansas, one of the things that we did was we brought our favorite cigarillos that we had, Tom had kept in the humidor for a decade. And we enjoyed those with the Dorsets, and it was wonderful to be able to share that with friends. That was definitely a moment of pure joy for us. And the Dorsets were good sports and played along.
That was magical.
It was. 4th of July every year, I make pancakes, a mug of hot chocolate, an ice cream sundae, and then watch the Michael Flatley show, Celtic Tiger. Cool. Tackle my dog and get hugs without his consent. Oh, yeah. Same with the cats, but they usually consent. Oh, the cats are more consenting. Okay.
I do not know how to feel about Leia Kitty, because Leia Kitty simultaneously always seems perturbed, but purrs really loudly when you pick her up and just cuddle her for a moment.
Yes.
She's I'm just putting up with this. Oh, but it's so nice.
Yes.
She is the character of the they get kissed and they're what was that? I kissed you. That was horrible. Do it again.
Yes.
Eva would like to know what is a joy moment for the other hosts.
Chocolate. I'm very non-discriminatory when it comes to my chocolate. There are some that I like more than others, but
the chocolate that Laura sends.
Oh my god,
it's better than the American chocolate.
Yeah.
Also, Laura, I have talked about you sending me candy enough that my one coworker is like, "Your friend that sent you candy?" And then they hadn't realized that you were also my friend that did lighting. I was like, "No, they're the same person." They're like, "Oh, that's amazing."
I also like malt. I am a big fan of malt in just about any application that I can apply it to. Pure
malt balls.
Malt balls, malted milk. Putting malt on any kind of ice cream, any kind of dessert, pure joy.
Yes, Eva, I enjoy sharing my work.
When someone tells me that I kept them up late with my work, or that they keep thinking about it a week later, they can't stop thinking about a story I wrote, that is when it's yes, this is why I do all the work. Yes. When I am able to haunt somebody while still living.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any final thoughts about anything, but maybe in particular second brain apps and other forms of personal organization?
Well, my 2 cents, as I've been saying, finding the process that works for you, but especially as a writer, I actually included World Anvil on the list as one of my favorite second brain apps, because as we're trying to build an audience and trying to build a fan base, making some of those things externalized for other people to get into can be good. It can be something that is very, very, very helpful for you. So while we don't have to share all of our private thoughts out loud, when it comes to our world building, our character notes and things like that, you'd be surprised how many people get into things with either through or get deeper into things because of the behind the scenes stuff. So it's kind of a secondary motivation to capture this. One, so you don't forget it, but two, so that you can share it with other people. And my absolute favorite way to use a lot of this is through pure collaboration. And that's one of the nice things that can happen when, especially your fiction brain exists online, is somebody may say something to you that makes you see something in a completely different light than the way that you were intending to go. So that can be very, very handy and very helpful.
Let's say don't feel too pressured to do an app if it seems overwhelming. Analog works for me most times, so use what's not too overwhelming and is still working.
Yeah, I mean, like we've talked, years before. I think even we're trying to bullet journals are great, but they are not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But for some people, bullet journals are the best option because it keeps them motivated while they are organizing.
Because mine is a journal, a task list, a goal setting, planning thingy, mabobber, and a scrapbook all in one. So.
Yeah, like my stenopads are really more like a clearinghouse of all my thoughts. So there's stories in here, recipes, menus, you name it, it's in there. Reminders to do things, working out thoughts, whatever I'm thinking, it'll be in there. If I write it on a Post-it note, it'll then eventually end up in a page on the Stenopad if I wish to keep that Post-it long term. And that is very helpful for me, partly because for me, opening my phone and loading an app is like the equivalent of walking through a doorway. Half the time I will forget what I was supposed to be doing. And then it's like, wait, what was I doing? And I'm just sitting there trying to remember for like 3 minutes. And I may remember, I may not. Versus, for whatever the reason, just grabbing the Stenopad, which is already open, and flipping to the next page and quickly starting to write, it's not the same way for my brain. And so I'm able to keep the thought easier to then transcribe it down. So that's helpful for me, but I know that doesn't necessarily work for everybody. Whatever works, and give different things a try. You never know what'll actually click for you until you try it. He says, I have notebooks half full with pages written out of order. I go through them every so often and pitch them. I do journal and have some work in progress specific journals as well. So it's just figuring out what helps. So one of the things that I have a problem with personally is the thoughts will just keep running in my head like a terrible litany. And it's distracting. It's so distracting. And so I write them down to offload them so I can have thoughts that I want to have rather than just, but we need milk. But we need milk. We definitely need milk. Are we going to get milk today? When are we getting milk? Does Tom know we need milk? Well, I need to remember not to forget to tell Tom tonight to get milk tomorrow, even though I know he's going to forget because he'll go to sleep and then he'll forget. How am I going to make sure that he knows to get milk? Like this obsessive crap. It's terrible. But if I could just put it on the list, he'll see it later. It's fine. It has taken us literally decades to work this system out, though, quite honestly. Again, it's about persistence and being very flexible in constantly, if it's not working, trying a new angle to solve the same problem. And being willing to be flexible and open about trying a lot of different things. What is that song? Too high, can't go over it. Too low, can't go under it. Too wide, can't go round it. So we walked right through the door.
Never heard it.
1980s Christianity was wild, y'all. But yeah, it's always like we got to find,
way too many ways.
huh?
I said in way too many ways.
Yes. But again, like, yeah, we used to sing that one as like like it was like a medley of that and the hide your light under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine. That one, like, it was like this. I don't know. 80s was wild. But I still think about that of like, well, if it's, if this doesn't work, we'll try it this way. If this doesn't work, we got to find the door. Eventually, we'll find the door. Yep. And so, yeah, the obsessive thoughts trigger. So again, it's just like finding what will help you offload the thoughts and, make the thoughts easy to access if they are essentially thoughts about functionality, like get the milk.
Also, let's be honest as well. So your brain gets obsessive when it's worried about forgetting something because it's sure it's important. So when you have those thoughts racing around your head, write down the anxious thoughts so your brain knows it's offloaded. It will actually make it easier to let them go because it knows it can pick them up again. But it's just like any thought, like it'll just keep running it on a cycle if it's worried for some reason about you forgetting it. Even if it's a negative thought, write it down. And then you can put it aside for now and pick it up later and go, all right, what was I so worried about?
Like for grocery lists, I literally write them on a Post-it note and put the Post-it note on the back of my phone. Like, that's how non-digital I am.
It's a good way to keep it, though.
Over and read it.
Look,
Doesn't
you keep
it
your
feel
phone with you, so you know you're going to keep the note.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, though, after you're done and you crumple up that note, doesn't it feel good to just
Unpeel it.
Yeah. Well, does anyone else have any further final thoughts? Have you said your piece? Then we will wave you off into the sunset. What are we going to talk about next week? Oh, I have no idea. I can't believe you asked. I have no idea what we're doing next week. We're probably most likely either talking about marketing and promotion, or we're talking about how to hire people for work, like developmental editors and illustrators and stuff.
I thought we were talking about your poetry book that you don't have any excuses not to do
The
anymore.
violets,
The only
Charlie.
excuse she has is currently no ISBN.
The violence.
Free in Canada.
And my goal is to change that whole lack of ISBN thing. Hopefully.
We're definitely not talking about my book of poetry coming out this year that apparently I have no more excuses for. We will see you next Monday and we'll find out then what we're talking about.
Well, we'll find out Wednesday.
We'll find out Wednesday because we have to make some decisions. So yeah, if you want to know, join us on Twitch. Bye, everybody. Waving you all off. La, la, la.